The Ren and Stimpy Show, 1991 to 1996, explored. Ren and Stimpy hold a special place for those who grew up during the 90s. Ren Hoek is a Chihuahua with a short fuse, and Stimpy is a dim-witted but warm-hearted Manx cat. And their wacky adventures make this show a must-watch for the comedic genius. John Kricfalusi created the series for Nickelodeon, and it ran for 5 seasons with 52 episodes, but most of them have 2 segments. While the series guaranteed laughs, and I would like to put the controversies aside, because I don't mind the occasionally offensive humor. In this video, I will take you through the complete lore of this amazing show. And hang on till the end if you want to relive the experience. If you appreciate our efforts in bringing you this content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more. Season 1. Stimpy's Big Day and the Big Shot. Stimpy, the 3-year-old cat, sits on his litter box and watches cartoons like a kid when Ren appears on the scene and berates him for wasting his time watching cartoons. Ren points out that watching cartoons shrinks one's brain and rots one's mind. However, Stimpy doesn't care and watches his favourite show, Muddy the Mud Skipper, which is about a fish. The cartoon is a parody of the Hanna-Barbera shows. A commercial on the Gritty Kitty, multi-purpose cat litter excites Stimpy, but his excitement blows off the roof when a competition is announced to write a 47 million words poem on Gritty Kitty cat litter. The prizes are rather simple. 47 million rupees, including the opportunity to appear in Muddy the Mud Skipper show. Stimpy wastes no time burning the midnight candle as he writes the most spectacular poem ever. Ren doesn't appreciate it and tries to stop Stimpy from posting the letter. Now that's a bit much, isn't it? However, Stimpy is unable to stop himself and posts it anyway before begging Ren for mercy. That night, the agent arrives to deliver the prize money to Stimpy, and Ren is about to call him. But the prize money changes Ren, and he starts identifying as a cat. He claims the money, but the agents leave with Stimpy in a limousine. Once in Hollywood, Stimpy meets the real Muddy the Mud Skipper fish, who shares some valuable insights before Stimpy is taken for makeup and shooting. John Kricfalusi's favourite actor, Kirk Douglas's caricatured face, appears as a cameo over Hollywood. However, the microphone sticks to Stimpy's nose, preventing him from speaking. The microphone was supposed to go into Stimpy's mouth, but Nickelodeon executives found it too sexual, and so it had to be altered. The second part of the episode begins with Ren living alone and missing Stimpy. With Stimpy gone, the house is in a disastrous condition, and Ren is clearly depressed. He wonders what Stimpy is doing. It's been 3 weeks, and Stimpy has become quite a celebrity. Stimpy shoots a commercial in the supermarket, where Mr. Horse is asked to identify the Gritty Kitty litter from other brands. Stimpy is living the life of dreams as he swims around a pool of Gritty Kitty litter while beautiful women seek his attention. John Kricfalusi voices Ren, and Billy West voices Stimpy. In fact, John did not want Stimpy to have a dopey voice that usually goes with such sidekicks, and Billy West had to test different styles before getting it right. On the other hand, Ren is unable to sleep on the bed alone, and even the pillow reminds him of Stimpy. He switches on the TV, but every show features Stimpy. However, it's not just as Stimpy remains down and groggy. Stimpy returns home, surprising Ren, and the two reconcile. But Ren goes back to his own self when Stimpy informs him he has given away the 47 million to be with his friend.
My hero.
Robin Hoek and Nurse Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy pray to Almighty before sleeping, but Stimpy can't sleep and demands Ren reads him a story, but Ren refuses and asks Stimpy to read it by himself. It's revealed that Ren wishes for huge pectoral muscles. As Stimpy starts reading from his storybook, Ren starts dreaming. The story is of Robin Hoek, which of course is a parody of Robin Hood. However, Stimpy has trouble remembering every aspect of the story and confuses the story. Stimpy also plays each character in the story, including the damsel in distress that Robin Hoek rescues. So much so that he travels great distances and climbs a castle only to dress as Maid Moron. The evil sheriff, keeping the maid hostage, appears as George Liquor, which is his first appearance in Season 1. We will get into George later, but let's complete Ren's dream. In the dream, Ren and his men rob the evil prince, his wife, and his cow. Robin Hoek then flies up to the castle, but it is surrounded by a big moat, where ferocious man-eating monks chase Robin as he manages to make an escape. Robin then climbs up the tower by holding onto the single hair strand of the maid. But isn't that from Rapunzel? The strand of hair turns out to be from Stimpy's nose, who plays the damsel. Robin defeats the sheriff by spraying him with gravy. Robin and Stimpy marry, but Ren is unable to take it anymore and wakes up, only to find Stimpy sleeping beside him, still dressed as the lady. The episode also aired the same year Warner Brothers' movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves hit the theatres and Disney re-released Robin Hood, 1973. So you can say it's the year of Robin Hood. The story is not over, as it's a bright and good morning for Stimpy. But when he looks over to Ren, he looks extremely sick and groggy. Stimpy decides to be a nurse and cure Ren. Stimpy conducts a few not-so-regular tests on Ren, and then feeds him with a giant portion of the all-purpose icky medicine solution. Within 4 months, Ren's condition starts to improve. Stimpy takes Ren for a wash, and forces Ren to take off his fur before cleaning him like the chihuahua he is. Stimpy is most likely the possible inspiration for Patrick Star from the SpongeBob SquarePants. Despite Stimpy's promise, people peep from the window to look at wet Ren. The next day, Stimpy serves Ren coffee, breakfast, and the day's newspaper. Ren is shocked to see his bath become the page 1 news, and he relapses into sickness. The episode takes a pretty dark turn as Ren's condition worsens, and Stimpy tries everything his kitty brain allows until he goes crazy. However, one morning, Ren wakes fresh as new, only to find Stimpy has fallen sick. As Ren dons the nurse's costume to cure Stimpy, the poor cat looks horrified, imagining what's coming.
Tune in next week as
Space Madness and the Boy Who Cried Rat. Ren and Stimpy start watching a TV show that's based on a space mission. As they are transported to the world of space adventure, Ren becomes Commander Hoek, and Stimpy becomes a cadet. However, 36 years in space roaming around the Crab Nebula made Commander Hoek develop space madness. As they finally get 6 years of rest, Cadet Stimpy takes Commander Hoek for dinner and to spend some quality time. However, Commander Hoek gets easily frustrated, especially with the poor food options. As he again gets crazy, Cadet Stimpy takes Commander Hoek for a hot bath. Hoek seems to enjoy himself and his new soap bar. But when Cadet Stimpy switches on the anti-gravity, it starts to affect his psyche once again. Apart from voicing Stimpy, Billy West has also recorded Ren's screams and maniacal laughter. Hoek starts suspecting Cadet Stimpy that he is plotting against him and has another meltdown. To get his revenge, Hoek asks Stimpy to guard the history eraser button so that nobody touches it. To make it more torturous, Hoek claims that if anybody pushes the button, something bad or something good might happen. Cadet Stimpy finds it extremely challenging to keep himself from pushing the button. With the narrator egging him, he eventually gives in and pushes the button that sends Commander Hoek, Cadet Stimpy, and the narrator to oblivion. The original storyboard of this episode was more focused on a futuristic setting with grave dialogues, but was cut before the final airing, making it much more light-hearted. The second segment begins with Ren and Stimpy rummaging through the garbage to find something to eat. Stimpy salvages a can for Ren and an old smelly sock for himself. However, before they can feast, they are shooed away. Hungry and disappointed, Ren and Stimpy sulks on the street when Ren gets a brilliant idea. Ren breaks into a suburban couple's house and disguises himself as a rat. Stimpy knocks on the couple's door and introduces himself as a professional mouse catcher. Here, and in other circumstances, Stimpy is referred to as Stimpson J. Cadogan, but we are not sure if it's a nickname or a last name. The couple takes Stimpy in and pays $5 to Stimpy to catch the rat. As Stimpy pretends to chase after Ren, the woman panics. Stimpy and Ren make fake sounds with utensils while gorging on the food. Stimpy finally gets hold of Ren, and they try to make it out of the house, but the couple forces Stimpy to eat the rat. Stimpy pretends to eat Ren, but doesn't swallow him. The couple forces Stimpy to chew and swallow the rat, but Stimpy manages to keep his buddy safe. To save himself, Ren starts tickling Stimpy, and he spits out Ren like a hairball. The couple still insists on helping Stimpy eat the rat, but Ren can't risk it anymore. He confesses being a chihuahua and asks Stimpy to return the money. However, Stimpy confesses that he is too hungry and eats the money. In the end, Stimpy and Ren are forced to wash the dishes and do all the household chores as compensation.
Please, save my baby!
Fire Dogs and Stimpy's Storybook Land. The Little Giant. Ren and Stimpy drag themselves across the street, hungry. Stimpy hands Ren the last morsel of food, which has a fly on it. Ren enjoys eating it, only to learn it's the last bit of Stimpy's litter, and breaks the litter box on Stimpy. They soon come across an advertisement asking for fire dogs, but they should be Dalmatians. Ren paints themselves with Dalmatian paint and applies for the job. An aggressive firefighter chief recruits them, but asks them to work hard. The fire chief is based on Ralph Bakshi, the legendary adult animator and cartoonist. As Ren lounges on the bunker beds, Stimpy practices climbing down the stairs and going upward by the pole, when suddenly the alarm sounds and they rush to their first task. Contrary to what Ren believed, a skyscraper is on fire and an obese woman asks for their help. As Ren and Stimpy stand with a trampoline, the woman throws down her giant baby, an overdramatic horse, a walrus and an elephant. They land on top Ren and Stimpy, crushing them, and so when the lady asks for help, Stimpy doesn't take any chances and sends Ren on a ladder. However, Ren faints at the sheer height, and the woman grabs Ren before descending down the stairs. The force of her body creates a crater in the middle of the road. Now it's time for Stimpy to work his magic as he drops cat litter on the building, dousing its flames. As a reward, the chief gifts them with fire hydrant caps, only to find all the dogs in the street lining up to release themselves. Once more, it's time for a bedtime story, and as Stimpy starts reading it, Ren drifts into a dream. So, once upon a time, there was a little giant, Stimpy, who lived in Hugevania and got picked on by the taller and larger giant. Fed up with the constant bullying and harassment, the little giant decides to leave Hugevania, but can barely control his tears as he still misses the bully friends. The bully giants are loosely based on Curly Howard and Larry Fine of the Three Stooges. Stimpy, the little giant, even writes a letter and eats it, because sometimes you just have to eat your words. Stimpy travels to Thumbsville village of farmer Ren. The village is in drought, and the animals are suffering from malnutrition. In fact, even the cow is delivering powdered milk. However, their fate changes when the little giant arrives. As Stimpy, the giant, starts profusely crying, it fills the well, which starts overflowing. The cow drinks the water and immediately gains weight. As Stimpy saves the village, Ren approaches Stimpy to share how grateful the villagers are to him. You might find Ren to be uncharacteristic in this episode, and that's because the Nickelodeon executives want a story where Ren is not mean and insane. Ren promises to do anything in return for Stimpy, but Stimpy only wants his back scratched. Stimpy starts living with Ren. Well, at least his nose does. Marooned and a cartoon, Untamed World. Ren and Stimpy's favourite live-action series about space adventure returns. This time, they travel through Sublight Drive and crash onto an alien planet. Stimpy suggests scouting the planet for life, but Ren scolds him and orders him to read the Space Cadet Handbook for guidance, which also suggests scouting. Ren and Stimpy come across bizarre creatures and stuff nightmares are made up of. The Space Cadet Handbook also suggests performing tests before eating something from the planet. Stimpy uses the device on all flora and fauna, only to find that the device makes beautiful noises. It's finally time for dinner, and Stimpy places a stinky space cabbage on Ren. As the space cabbage tries to eat Ren, he starts hitting Stimpy for his foolishness. At night, they make a tent and are about to sleep, but Stimpy wakes up and is enchanted by the moon. Stimpy's snoring is intentionally done as a nod to Shemp Howard. Ren hits his head on the moon, which has come down right in front of their tent. Annoyed with Stimpy's high jinks, Ren restrains Stimpy. In the middle of the night, A very seductive female dog arrives to seek Ren's help, but she turns into a monster and captures Ren. Stimpy tries to save Ren, but faces the same fate as they become food for the aliens. The duo are gulped down by the alien monsters and meet various bacteria and viruses. Once again, Stimpy consults the Space Cadet book, but finds that they are doomed, and as usual, Ren hits Stimpy with the book. The next segment has Ren and Stimpy as nature documentarians. They travel to the Galapagos Islands to trace the footsteps of Charles Darwin. They introduce the audience to strange animals and birds, all of which are hybrid versions of either Ren or Stimpy with the actual creature. The duo observes that a giant tortoise lays eggs, but when the baby tortoise makes it to the ocean, it gets followed by a mean and scary seagull. However, bringing an end to their desire, the seagull turns out to be harmless and friendly. This episode is the last one that was made under Lacewood Productions, as studio director Jamie Olive was displeased with the animation done by Lacewood Productions. He moved on to Carbuncle Cartoons in the second season. Ren and Stimpy also encounter cave frogs that eat flies. The two also come across the Croaker Stimpy, a prehistoric creature that has the same stupid vocabulary as the real Stimpy. They get on a bus with other Croaker Stimpy. At last, they try to tag the yak, but the yak escapes, and Ren asks Stimpy to use the tranquilizer. However, the dart hits Ren, and Stimpy tags Ren's ear instead. Finally, a Ren lizard attracts nature show hosts and gets its photos clicked. Later, Ren and Stimpy point out that people should maintain the balance of the untamed world. Ren also gets his payback by tagging Stimpy's tongue.
You sick little monkey! Why, I oughta...
Black Hole and Stimpy's invention. Commander Hoek and Cadet Stimpy's space adventure continues in the first segment. However, John Crisfalusi's dad thought they were too stupid. The story begins with the duo getting sucked into a black hole, and even the manual overdrive doesn't work. They end up in a different dimension where random objects float in the air. Ren and Stimpy surrender to their fate as they start to mutate. At first, there is a double Stimpy, and when Ren doesn't like it, Stimpy eats himself. They also notice that their body parts have become detachable. Ignoring their circumstances and adapting to the changes, the duo starts scouting and comes across a weird smell. However, they are delighted to find a mountain of lost socks. So that's where all the left socks go. It makes sense though. As Stimpy chews on his own left sock, Ren dreams of being rewarded a Nobel Peace Prize by George Licker for his find. Stimpy suddenly gets a notification about a trans-dimensional gate, and that they must reach there in 30 minutes if they ever want to return to Earth. Ren and Stimpy rush to the spot with only 25 seconds to spare. They get on the bus, which is supposed to take them back to Jersey City. However, the bus driver only accepts change and throws out Ren and Stimpy. A hopeless Ren wonders how they will survive and what their molecules will be. But Stimpy has an idea as he decides to implode in a very scientific manner. Stimpy demonstrates how he will implode to a very emotional Ren. The duo share one last hug and are prepared to die when suddenly Stimpy discovers he has a lot of change. This earns Stimpy Ren's wrath, but it's already too late as Stimpy and Ren starts imploding. In the second segment, we see Ren reading a newspaper when Stimpy calls him to demonstrate his newest invention. The first is a machine that can make cheese talk. When it fails miserably, Stimpy tries to impress Ren by showing off an automatic razor. Nope, not the kind you are thinking about. It shaves the body when someone else is handling the device. At last, Stimpy offers Ren a pair of socks that will never come out. An excited Ren tries on the socks but learns that it's filled with glue. As he gets stuck with the shoe, Ren goes even madder and tries to strangle Stimpy, but to no avail. After days, Stimpy finally comes up with the happy machine and puts it on Ren. The happy machine forces Ren's face to form a grin, but it makes him go crazier and completely insane. To add onto it, Stimpy brings a record of the Happy Happy Joy Joy song by Stinky Whizzleteats. This is a caricature of folk singer Burl Ives, and even some of the quotes are from Ives's performance. This really does it, as Stimpy forces Ren to dance to the song. The psychotic chihuahua takes a hammer and hits the happy machine until it breaks and falls. Stimpy is now left at the mercy of a really and extremely angry Ren. But Ren realizes being angry makes him happy. What is the moral of the story? Do what makes you happy.
Congratulations! You graduated! I can't believe it! We made it!
Season 2. In the Army and Powdered Toastman, Ren and Stimpy join the US Army and undergo a rigorous induction process, which includes receiving a shot and shaving their heads. As they finally receive their uniforms, Ren feels that maybe the life of a soldier is not so bad, but he is soon brought back to reality when the huge and bossy sergeant, who has a speech problem, puts them under rigorous training. Once again, Stimpy demonstrates utmost dedication, while Ren struggles to keep up. The next training involves surviving in the tear gas room, where they are ordered to take off their mask, and while Stimpy starts crying, Ren suspiciously survives the ordeal. This is the first episode that is animated by Rough Draft, the Korean animation studio that went on to animate several episodes for the rest of the series. Ren reveals that he was storing the gas in his mouth and are sent to the tear gas room again and again. At the same time, they are also put to work in the kitchen, peeling potatoes or cutting watermelons. Another training requires the cadets to walk long distances with heavy backpacks. Unable to bear the weight, Ren falls into the mud, and Stimpy carries both Ren and his backpack. However, the Sarge rises from the mud and forces Ren to carry him. At night, Ren and Stimpy return to the dormant. He barely gets a moment's sleep before they have to wake up. A sleepless Ren becomes psychotic and breaks a bed in anger. The Sarge sends Ren and Stimpy to shave warheads. The tough army life makes Ren crazy as he starts speaking gibberish, but the Sarge announces that the worst is over and that they are now ready to fight as tank paratroopers. The episode ends with Ren and Stimpy finally joining the war. The second segment is based on the famous Powdered Toast Man, who often comes to Ren and Stimpy's rescue. Powdered Toast Man gets a distress call and finds a kitten's life in danger. Powdered Toast Man crashes an airplane onto the truck, saving the kitten and earning all the praise. No wonder both the segments are banned on Paramount Plus, but this episode takes the cake. Powdered Toast Man uses his unique backward flying skill to cross the globe and save the Pope, who is abducted by Muddy the Mud Skipper. The hero saves the Pope, but ties Muddy to the explosives before leaving. As he flies, the Pope snugs on his buttock to prevent himself from sliding off. After leaving the Pope on top of a hill, Powdered Toast Man arrives at Ren and Stimpy's house and serves them bread out of his head. However, Ren and Stimpy are not satisfied with the taste until Powdered Toast Man farts on it. The heroics of Powdered Toastman continue as he helps the US president zip off his pants. But when it causes some injury, Powdered Toastman is voted as the president. He suddenly feels the chills and burns the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence in the fireplace to keep the room warm and toast his sausages. Needless to say, this scene has caused much outrage. However, we have just started, and things are going to get even crazier from here.
I'll show you a smile.
Ren's Toothache and Big House Blues. Ren wakes up to the horrendous and spine-chilling sound of Stimpy brushing his teeth. When Ren complains, Stimpy advises Ren to brush his teeth, but Ren ignores him. However, as Ren checks his smile in the mirror, we can see a set of ugly, dirty, rotten teeth and gum. That night, Ren experiences a toothache, and Stimpy tells him Hatter Tooth Beaver lives in everyone's teeth, but it loves feasting on nerve endings. The next day, Ren again refuses to brush his teeth, and his teeth start to crack. By morning, all of Ren's teeth crumble and fall. With Ren's tooth all gone, the nerve endings stick out and his mouth stinks. The episode feels like a long promotional message meant for kids who don't brush their teeth. The tooth beaver is unable to tolerate the stink and leaves. The flies sitting on Stimpy's litter also leave after a whip of Ren's stinky mouth reaches them. Feeling ashamed and sorry, Ren approaches Stimpy who tells him another story about a fairy taking all the nerve endings and leaving a $100 bill instead, which Ren can use to buy new teeth. FYI, the cartoon uses various stock scores as background music, while some of the music is later used in SpongeBob SquarePants 1999. Ren tweezes out all the nerve endings and sleeps peacefully while the fairy approaches him. On closer look, the fairy resembles a drag queen gone wild. The fairy collects the nerve endings, but is short on bills, so he picks out a bundle of lint and keeps it under Ren's pillow. Ren is heartbroken to find that there are no bills, but he is quickly distracted by Stimpy, who gifts him with a large tooth that he extracted from his own mouth. The segment of Big House Blouse starts with our boys Ren and Stimpy fighting the pangs of hunger. Adversity has brought the natural enemies of a dog and a cat together, but their fate is not yet sealed. Ren and Stimpy are taken by a dog catcher and taken to the dog pound. However, to their surprise, the man in charge asks them to have fun and party with the other dogs, but one dog is taken away to put to sleep, and Ren misconstrues it as actual sleeping, but soon learns the truth. Ren panics and relays the information to Stimpy. As they both act crazy, Ren and Stimpy are put in a cell. Stimpy starts behaving oddly and spits out hairballs, which stick onto Ren's body, making him look like a poodle. The snippets from this episode comprise most of the scenes used in the intro sequence. Instead of being killed, Ren gets adopted by a little girl's parents. As Ren leaves with the girl, Stimpy looks at Ren with sad eyes. Ren can't take it anymore and demands that Stimpy be adopted as well, and the girl agrees. At their new home, Ren is provided clothes, while Stimpy is provided a box of a litter, his first material possession.
Horse thieves! Hang 'em!
Out west, and rubber nipple salesman, the sheriff of a Wild West town is bored and dumb, but too dumb to be bored. Anyway, they decide to hang somebody for fun, but they decide it must be somebody who deserves it. Maybe a villain. Meanwhile, Ren and Stimpy ride chickens to reach the town and decide to pillage and loot it. They find a Villains Wanted poster on the sheriff's door and volunteers. At the sheriff's behest, Ren and Stimpy steal a horse. But it's not a horse, but Abner, the sheriff's wife, and he lets them keep her. Ren and Stimpy again try to steal a horse, but this is something that has happened before to Mr. Horse, and he delivers the bandits to the forgetful sheriffs. However, they are unable to hang Ren and Stimpy, as Ren is too light and Stimpy doesn't have a neck. The sheriffs decide to hang each other, which is accompanied by a song and a dance, keeping the tone light. In the next segment, Ren and Stimpy become rubber nipple salesmen and drive around trying to sell their product. Ren dreams of making money, while Stimpy only wishes everyone appreciates his nipples. On that note, this segment is banned in Paramount Plus Canada, but available on the US version. As they arrive at the first house, Ren volunteers to be the salesperson, but it's the fire chief who has had enough with the circus midgets and beats Ren with a shovel by mistaking him as one. Next, the duo arrives at Mr. Horse's house, but Mr. Horse might have done something suspicious and suffers a meltdown. He refuses to buy the rubber nipples, but shows his walrus to Ren and Stimpy. Since none of Ren's pitches are landing right, Stimpy begs him to let him speak with the next family. They arrive at Pipe's family home, and Stimpy succeeds in demonstrating the various uses and benefits of the rubber nipples to the husband. He agrees to buy all the rubber nipples for $5, but once done, he throws Ren and Stimpy out of the house, and they land on bulls, rampaging away.
Stimpy, say hello to a superior creature.
Hello, superior creature.
Sven Hoek. Fed up with Stimpy's stupidity and his idiotic behaviour, Ren eagerly waits for the arrival of his intelligent and smart cousin Sven Hoek. However, when Sven arrives, things don't pan out the way Ren hoped. Sven turns out to be as stupid and lame as Stimpy, that they even look alike. Sven shows his jar of spit to Stimpy, who shows his nose boogie goblins that he picked himself. We feel John Kay had overdosed on the gross to make it funny, which was not always necessary. Ren leaves for work, and with Ren away, Sven and Stimpy play hide and seek. Sven even joins Stimpy kitty litter, and Stimpy breaks the fourth wall, calling it a private moment before shutting the door. Next, Sven and Stimpy come across an interesting board game called Don't Whiz on the electric fence. This marks the first episode to air after John Crickfalusi and his company Spumco were fired for failing to produce the episodes in time. This is also the first episode produced by Games Animation. Ren returns from work, or whatever the hell he is doing. He discovers that the entire place is trashed, while his valuable possessions are in ruins. Ren gets mad, and to get his revenge on Sven and Stimpy, he starts pissing on the electrical fence. It doesn't only blow the house, but the three of them directly land in hell, and the devil asks if somebody whizzed on the electric fence. Mad Dog Hoek and Haunted House. Ren and Stimpy are now Mad Dog Hoek and Killer Cadogan, two wrestlers competing with professional wrestler brothers Loaf and Lump. Stimpy is scared, but Ren assures him that it's all pretend for the camera. The episode brilliantly parodies the wrestling matches, and since the gross factor is low on this one, we would like to rate this as one of our favourite segments. The match begins with Stinky getting the first hit, and then it's Ren's turn. Ren is all confident and bites onto the neck of the wrestler, and he starts falling asleep until he brings out a tea set out of his pants. The tea wakes up Lump, and he thrashes Ren, who barely taps the eager to play Stimpy. Killer Cadogan tries to be friends with Loaf and asks him to play, but Loaf turns Stimpy into a ball and does as told. Speaking of games, Ren and Stimpy is the first Nicktoon that has video games. As Stimpy stupidly enjoys being beaten and whipped around, Ren lounges on a chair. Stimpy pokes Ren and lets him fight, while Loaf carefully places Stimpy on the chair and makes him comfortable. The referee checks whether the brothers are playing fair as they beat Ren, stomp on him, screw with his head, and use all sorts of torture. In the final round, both Stimpy and Ren get brutally flogged until Lump and Loaf remember they have to throw the match. As they pretend to be taken down, Ren and Stimpy are announced winners. So Ren was right? Loaf pretends to be angry and upset as he publicly swears revenge. But when it's the winner's turn, Stimpy loudly and aggressively professes his love for his new friends. As we move on to the second segment, let me tell you that both are banned on Paramount+. Ren and Stimpy arrive in front of a haunted house, and a little ghost is all ready to scare them. However, as Ren and Stimpy break through the door, the poor little ghost gets crushed. Stimpy even fries up the ghost as it tries to scare him by hiding inside armor. The log from the short videos preceding the cartoon makes a cameo in this scene. Next, the ghost hides himself in bread to give them a jump scare. Once again, Ren and Stimpy fail to notice him, and instead layer him with peanut butter, fish eggs, and fish. As Stimpy proceeds to eat it, Ren stops him and berates him for not sharing food with the hungry yaks. Stimpy gives up the sandwich to the yak, who beats the hell out of the ghost sandwich to tenderize it. Once it's bedtime, Ren can't sleep due to Stimpy's stinky underarms and sends him to shower. The little ghost creeps into the bathroom, and instead of the towel, Stimpy grabs the ghost. This scene is a nod to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, 1960, and so for a good portion, it's in black and white. The ghost experiences all sorts of horror and humiliation as Stimpy rubs the ghost all over the body. Yeah, even where the sun doesn't shine. The frustrated ghost is driven to the edge, and he rummages through an old trunk to find a saw machine and a mask. He directly confronts the sleeping duo, but as usual, they mistake him for a trick-or-treater and give him candies. The ghost starts calling himself a failure, but Stimpy approaches him and tries to sympathize, but the ghost is too far gone. He tries to kill himself again, and Stimpy lends him poison. However, after death, the ghost returns to its human form and realizes it is alive. The naked man leaves the mansion happily, leaving Ren and Stimpy dumbfounded.
Mom always liked you best!
Big Baby Scam and Dog Show. Ren and Stimpy watch two infants having fun inside their house. Ren notes that babies have the best lives since they are fed and cleaned by adults while they simply lie and play. Ren cooks up a plan and offers $50 to the babies, Sean and Eugene, to leave the house permanently so that he and Stimpy can take their place. The bossy babies with extremely adult voices snatch the offer and leave. However, Stimpy impresses the mum by filling up his diapers, while Ren starts feeling left out. When the dad arrives, he has rubber nipples stuck to his knees, and now we know it's the pipes. Although the cartoon is often criticised for its several disturbing sequences, it was one of the pioneers in using title cards, applying gross-out humour, grotesque close-ups, and even promoting creator-driven storytelling instead of being merchandise-driven. Moving on, Papa plays with Ren and commends his strong muscles and quick reflexes, which means he could be a good bully in school. However, the roughhousing takes the fun out of Ren's life. Ren and Stimpy are also exposed to more horrific experiences when the family takes a bath together, along with the ex-bully Grandpa Old Man Hunger. However, the police arrive with Sean and Eugene after they have been caught loitering around the track. As Mr. Pipe speaks with the policeman, Ren and Stimpy try to sneak out of the house. Ren demands his $50 from the babies, but takes a beating from them instead. In the next segment, we are introduced to George Liquor American, who has entered the all-breed dog show with Ren the Chihuahua and Stimpy the cat. George demonstrates how dogs must be groomed and cared for before entering the dog show so that they win over the judge. Mr. Horse minutely examines the first contestant's dog, but rejects him for being too perfect. As Mr. Horse throws away the dog, it's eaten by a bulldog. Another dog begs for his life and blames his owner, but ultimately voluntarily approaches the bulldog to be eaten alive. George Liquor remains confident that the judge will eat out of their palms, while Ren and Stimpy get scared, thinking this is the end of their life. However, thanks to Ren being a dirty and unkempt dog, he passes the ordeal. However, Mr. Horse finds Stimpy's butt smooth and rejects him, but no worries as George Liquor approaches the horse and makes a case for his two weird dogs. After Ren and Stimpy are selected, it's time for the final face-off, but this time, it's a human host and judge. The judge is stricter and disqualifies Stimpy after finding a single ingrown dew claw on his legs. George Liquor suffers a meltdown and tries to send Ren to win the show, but Ren talks back and asks George to go on stage if he is so confident. George takes up the challenge and poses as a dog, which earns him first prize, while Ren and Stimpy start feeling weirdly proud and emotional.
Stinky!
Son of Stimpy. One day, while watching TV, Stimpy lets out a loud fart, but gets stunned and explains it in great detail to a very indifferent Ren. Stimpy even tries to let out another one to show it to Ren, but nothing comes out of his butt. A desperate Stimpy keeps looking for his fart Stinky all over the house and even talks to his nose boogies. 3 years pass, and Stimpy gets depressed as he misses Stinky. Ren tries everything to cheer him up, and as nothing budges Stimpy from his depressive state, it starts to infuriate Ren. At night, Stinky looks mournfully at Stimpy sleeping and his big butts. Even on a cold night, Stimpy calls for Stinky while Ren accompanies him. Ren points out there's mistletoe above them, but Stimpy gets disgusted as Stinky is out there alone in the cold. Stimpy leaves in the snow looking for his fart son. This episode was later retitled as Stimpy's First Fart, which was John's original title for the story. A despairing Ren prays to God to bring back Stimpy and promises to hold back on his pectoral muscles. Meanwhile, Stimpy looks for Stinky across the city and collapses, but Stinky appears feeling guilty for leaving his home. He is unable to see Stimpy's face, so he leaves and gets chased by homeless people. It's finally Christmas, and Ren cries his heart out alone in the house when Stimpy arrives, but he is all frozen, and Ren takes care of him. Also, as it's a Christmas episode, so Stinky returns and reunites with his father. However, Stinky has brought his fiancée, the dead cod. They get married, and at last, it's a happy ending. Monkey see, monkey don't, and fake dad. Ren and Stimpy spy on the animals in the zoo, and Ren notes how they are well fed by the visitors. He again makes a disastrous plan and approaches the zookeeper while dressed as monkeys. They get the job, but have to share the cage with a real monkey. Ren considers the zoo animals as evolved beings, rather than house cats or dogs, so he tries to teach Stimpy etiquette, as well as jumping tricks, but fails miserably in both cases. This episode marks the first time Billy West voices Ren since John Kricfalusi was fired. Now, life as a monkey is not all roses, as vermins and lice on their monkey costume make them itch, but the real monkey comes to Stimpy's help. But when it's Ren's turn, the monkey wants Ren to pluck the vermin off his body and eat it. Ren is forced to oblige, but with disgust. Later, when visitors arrive, the monkey rushes off to entertain them. The guests provide him with lots of human food, which makes Ren and Stimpy excited. However, Stimpy is handed his favourite nutshells and pre-chewed gum, while Ren is handed a rock. As the boy laughs, Ren hits him, but notices the zookeeper has arrived. The zookeeper offers them unappetizing food that finally drives the psychotic chihuahua mad. Ren takes off his costume and seeks a transfer. It turns out they are made to pretend to be a hippopotamus and a bird. Ren and Stimpy visit the fake dad headquarters so that Ren could be a fake dad to a child for a weekend. However, instead of a big cuddly baby, Ren is given a big hairy man called Kowalski, just out of prison, with anger issues and a history of committing crimes against humanity. Ren finds no way out of the mess and takes Kowalski to his home. He feeds Kowalski, but he breaks Ren's chair, tears his book and smokes, making Ren extremely angry while the emotional Stimpy tries to keep Ren in check. When Ren hits Kowalski for smoking, he starts crushing every object, including Stimpy, which serves him right. One of the interesting tidbits about this series is that John Kay was friends with Danny Antonucci, who created the famous gross-out humour series Ed, Edd n Eddy. During a picnic, Kowalski throws tantrums and overdoses on meat. Ren tries to burp Kowalski for 36 weeks, but Kowalski burps into Ren's mouth. Ren asks him to turn around and pull down his pants for a beating. However, Ren's eyes are treated to something horrific, but what is it? He stops Kowalski and then takes him back to the fake dad headquarters. It's an emotional goodbye as Kowalski is taken back to prison.
How you fellers doing? Beautiful day, isn't it?
The great outdoors and the cat that laid the golden hairball. Ren and Stimpy's next adventure takes them camping in the woods amidst nature. Stimpy has brought dehydrated food in capsule form. Despite Stimpy's warning, Ren chews on a meat pill and transforms into Mr. Horse. After some time, Stimpy insists on going skinny dipping and leaves his outer coat behind. Ren feels shy, but anyway, joins in for the fun. But they are greatly interrupted by Old Man Hunger, who loves being naked and making others uncomfortable. He also calls Mrs. Buttloaves. Later, Stimpy asks Ren to make a fire, and Ren tries to rub two squirrels against each other. When he fails, Ren uses gasoline and sets himself on fire. Thankfully, Old Man Hunger stomps on Ren and saves him. With the tent burned, Ren and Stimpy decide to sleep out in the open, but a mosquito annoys Ren and bites him. Ren kills the mosquito, earning the wrath of the mosquito clan. The next morning, Ren wakes up filled with mosquito bites all over his face and body. He goes to drink fresh water from the lake, but Stimpy stops him as beavers do their business in the water, contaminating it. Ren drinks the fresh water that Stimpy has brought, but there's still a beaver inside it. Ren gets affected and turns into a beaver. He beats Stimpy for the mishap, and Grandpa Pipe joins him as he too is affected by the same disease. Before we move on to the next segment, let me share an odd trivia. Billy West was bullied by John Kay, much like Ren did with Stimpy. West not only almost lost his voice, but also received death threats and offensive comments from John and a part of the fandom. In the second segment, we find Ren disgusted with Stimpy's hairball muck all over the place. However, when Ren watches a news report on how hairballs are becoming more valuable than gold, he welcomes back Stimpy with wide arms, but that's it. Soon, Ren set up a factory for hairball production. Stimpy licks his own body and spits out hairballs while Ren brands them, and at last Ren's nephew Bubba packs them, often nicking a few. However, soon Stimpy is out of fur and exhausted from all the licking and spitting, but Ren won't let him go. Ren volunteers and allows Stimpy to lick him, but Stimpy fails to produce any hairballs, as Ren doesn't have much hair either. Ren suggests Stimpy licks Bubba's hairy body, but even that proves futile. Bubba ventures inside Stimpy's bed and finds his hairball gland is damaged. He brings it out, but the gland turns into dust. As Stimpy and Ren laments about the gland, Bubba dejectedly comments that it's over. Since it also means that the episode is over, the three of them start dancing.
Come on, man. Do us all a favor.
Stimpys Fan Club. Ren and Stimpy patiently wait for the fan mail, and when it arrives, they jump into it. However, they are letters addressed to Stimpy. Well, that's kind of obvious. When Ren sobs in pain, Stimpy suggests that Ren can be the president of Stimpys Fan Club, and Ren agrees. Stimpy asks Ren to answer all the fan letters, and Ren confidently starts reading. When a fan letter insults Ren, he writes a befitting reply, ending the child's delusion that Stimpy is real. In another letter, a boy shares his secret of wetting his bed every night, but Ren proceeds to write another horrible and rude answer. Fortunately, Stimpy reads the answer and stops Ren, explaining that wetting the bed is not a crime, and even he and Ren do it. On an unrelated note, John Kay once confessed that Stimpy and Ren are gay, but their relationship is mostly based on that of Sour Pass and Gandy Goose from Terry Toons. Ren realizes he is being horrible and asks Stimpy to kill him, but he refuses. Stimpy helps Ren realize he can still be compassionate. Ren still manages to write an insulting yet compassionate letter. However, reading all the letters praising Stimpy drives Ren insane, and he stays awake at night plotting murder. As Ren tries to kill Stimpy, his brain hurts, and he is on fire. The next day, when the mailman arrives, Ren disguises himself as Stimpy and asks the mailman to ask the fans to stop writing. But the mailman has brought a letter for Ren, which Ren shows off to Stimpy. Ren gloats at the words of praise, but discovers it's written by Stimpy and feels ashamed. As Ren cries, people watch from the window.
You march into the house. Meet me in the den.
A visit to Anthony. Ren and Stimpy are in their homeland when they receive a fan mail from little Anthony, who invites them to his home in America. Ren and Stimpy kiss their burly human wives goodbye and leave Hollywood, Yugoslavia for America. Anthony is overjoyed by their arrival and asks his mom if he can keep them. Anthony's mom agrees, but asks him to ask his father. Anthony enjoys playing around with Ren and Stimpy as he asks them to do all the toon thingies, but gets upset and starts hyperventilating at the drop of a hat. The next morning, Anthony catches Ren pooping and Stimpy showering, which breaks his fantasy, and Anthony starts hyperventilating. Anthony's dad hates cartoons, but threatens Ren and Stimpy to not destroy Anthony's fantasy and not hurt him. Anthony's dad is based on John Kay's dad, and he even wanted his dad to voice the role, but it didn't happen. Anthony is also inspired by a real fan who had sent the first fan mail. Ren, Stimpy and Anthony are further harassed by the school bully, Victor, who refuses to believe that they are the real Ren and Stimpy. The kid starts hyperventilating and Ren tries to revive him. The episode takes quite a dark turn, but this is not the only time it shows a poignant issue. Anthony's dad comes out at the same time and begs God to spare his son. Anthony's dad falsely assumes Ren and Stimpy are the bullies and berates them, shaking them to their knees, but at last he laughs out loud when watching Stimpy spit hairballs at Ren.
We did it! We struck dirt!
The Royal Canadian Kilted Yaksman. In the 1800s, despite Ren's silent protests, Stimpy buys into the propaganda of the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaksman and joins the patriotic group, while the rest of the recruits remain to stay and party. Ren and Stimpy wear Irish-styled clothes as they ride yaks through Canada's wintry tundra, jungle and wasteland. They encounter various creatures, including a small, monstrous one that makes the ride even more challenging. They also get stuck by bees, and Ren mistakenly swallows a swarm of bees. To lift his spirits, Stimpy sings the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaksman, and soon Ren and the others join in. On that note, if you are wondering about the theme song, it's titled Dog Pound Hop. However, even with all the singing, Ren, Stimpy and the Yaks grow tired as they reach a desert. One of the Yaks becomes hysterical due to the lack of food, but Ren slaps him to bring him to his senses and suggests that all sit and think about how they can procure food. However, thinking is a difficult task, and it takes more than a day. Let me remind you, this is also the last episode by Spumco, before it was fired. At last, Ren stipulates they can always eat dirt. The group starts walking again to find dirt, until they come across a geyser-like stream of dirt. As they consume dirt of different kinds, the group is satisfied. After waking up the next day, Ren and Stimpy hoist a flag, and they are still remembered as heroes by Canadians.
See, Ren, it's the last word in domestic.
Season 3. To salve and slave not, and no pants today. Ren is done with Stimpy, for always buying unnecessary things from the door-to-door salesman. At first, Stimpy buys a huge vacuum cleaner that not only sucks in a monkey, but also sucks in a disgruntled Ren. Later, a salesman arrives and tries to sell an ointment called Salv to Stimpy. He doesn't let Stimpy talk, and keeps explaining the different benefits of the product. However, Ren stops Stimpy from buying the product, but the salesman appears from random places to pitch his product. He appears at Ren's dressing table, and then through the kitchen pipe. The salesman also appears in the form of bread, trying to explain how Salv can replace everyday products and help with their problems. Each time, Ren catches the guy and throws him out of the house. But when Ren is out of toilet paper, the salesman appears in the bathroom and claims that Salv can also replace toilet paper. Ren finally agrees to buy Salv, but Stimpy has already bought the lot. The episode ends with Stimpy sharing his Salv with Ren. This episode was produced at Spumco and completed by Games Animation. In fact, this season marks the beginning of the Games Animation era. In the second segment, Stimpy takes a shower and goes to put on his clothes but can't find his pants. He wakes up an annoyed Ren, who reminds Stimpy that cats don't wear pants and throws him out of the house. Stimpy proceeds to ask Mrs. Pipe to lend one of Mr. Pipe's drying pants, but she gets horrified at the sight of a naked cat and runs. Mr. Pipe comes out in his wife's defence, and Stimpy hides inside a tree. However, there is no respite for the pantless, as the neighbourhood bully and sadistic Victor arrive soaring tree trunks. Victor makes a deal with Stimpy and promises to give Stimpy his pants if Victor can punch Stimpy in the gut. Afterward, Stimpy accompanies Victor and his dad in their car, but Dad reminds Victor that his underwear is embroidered by his mom. However, Victor's dad lends his underwear to Stimpy, and Victor ties the baggy underwear with ropes before they throw him out of the car. As Victor and his dad laugh at Stimpy, they fall over a cliff and crash. Meanwhile, a cow forcibly takes Stimpy's pants and throws him into the deep dark forest, where clothed animals torment our naked cat. The episode was originally titled Stimpy That Dirty Little Naked Boy, but was changed later. A bear finally comes to his rescue and gives him a squirrel to cover himself. A confident Stimpy returns home to tell Ren about his adventures. Ren gives Stimpy and the squirrel matching dresses and wears a similar one before they decide to go shopping together.
Do the iron cross.
A Yard Too Far and Circus Midgets. In this Hanna-Barbera tribute, we find Stimpy and Ren down with hunger. They follow a delicious aroma and arrive in front of a house that has Ren's favourite hog jowl. Ren asks Stimpy to check if there's a dog, like in Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and Stimpy reports there's none. But as soon as Ren enters the yard, he gets attacked by the pet baboon. Ren sends Stimpy's skin to steal the hog jowl, but Mr. Pipe appears and assumes Stimpy's skin is a filthy hog jowl. He feeds it to the pet baboon while Stimpy cries. The plot is somewhat based on the Yogi Bear short Pie Pirates. For their next plan, Stimpy and Ren disguise themselves as the wife and pet, the baboon, but Mr. Pipe sends his wife to get mauled by the baboon for nurturing its primal nature. In the next instance, Ren uses a hand puppet to distract the baboon while Stimpy goes to steal the hog jowl. The baboon falls in love with the puppet and offers her a box of worms, and Ren eats it thinking it is chocolate. The baboon proposes to the puppet, and when she agrees, he drags her along with Ren's hand to get married. Stimpy officiates the wedding, and when the baboon and the puppet go on their honeymoon, Ren and Stimpy finally enjoy their hog jowl. In the second segment, Ren and Stimpy try to hitchhike when two circus midgets pick them up in their tiny car. The midgets, Shlomo and Momo, bully Stimpy and then introduce themselves. Shlomo is a caricature of Joe Pesci's Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas, 1990. The midgets show several brutal parlor tricks to Ren and Stimpy and dress them up as clowns. The midgets also use torture to train Ren and Stimpy in circus acts. As the car stops at a gas station, the midgets leave, while Ren and Stimpy make a futile attempt to escape. The midgets loot the gas station, along with Kowalski, a cow, and a whale, but the cops show up. Shlomo launches Momo to take care of the police, but their car leaks and collides with a railing. As the car tumbles down, the hostages escape, except for Ren and Stimpy, who, along with the car, collide with the side of a mountain. Later, bandaged and still wearing the clown clothes, they try to hitchhike, but are picked up by the fire chief, who had always hated circus midgets. Ren's Pecs and an Abe divided. The episode opens on the beach with Stimpy reading and women swooning over Ren. However, a large man with pectoral muscles appears and insults Ren. Feeling embarrassed and furious, Ren rants to Stimpy about not having pectoral muscles when Charles Globe, a famous muscleman, appears on the shore. Charles Globe suggests that Ren can shift fat from one portion of the body to his chest through surgery, but alas, Ren doesn't have any. Stimpy volunteers to share his butt fat, and soon they are into surgery. But Ren asks Stimpy to save his brain in case he dies. Of course, someone needs to study it. After the surgery, Stimpy has a rather deflated butt, while Ren gains much confidence and pectoral muscles. Did you know that even a music video called Ren's Pecs was released during the time of the airing? It was sung by Billy West as Stimpy. Ren rushes off to the beach with Stimpy and grabs the attention of the swooning women. Ren also takes down the bully with his pectoral muscles and then takes leave from Stimpy to move on with his life. Stimpy bids a very dramatic and tearful goodbye as he gifts Ren a muscle t-shirt. Ren goes to Hollywood and becomes both rich and famous. A shot of the buttocks shows that Stimpy has entered Ren's house as a new waiter, but Ren fails to recognize him. However, he claims to owe it all to his friend Charles Globe. The next segment is in Washington, D.C., where Ren and Stimpy feast on a maggot-covered steak from the dustbin when they come across an advertisement seeking security men to guard the president. The duo are recruited by Sergeant Big Butt to guard the memorial statue of Abraham Lincoln. Sergeant Big Butt also shows them how if they disgrace the country, they will be slapped by towels. Ren and Stimpy are employed to wipe and clean the statue. Sergeant Big Butt uses Ren to wipe off the pigeon droppings on the statue's shoulders. During the open hours, Ren overhears a man telling his grandchild about the treasure inside Lincoln's head. Ren immediately shoves the visitors out and then tries to sneak inside Abe's head from Abe's nose. Stimpy uses the statue's nose-picking ability to pull out Ren, and it turns out there were others who tried the heist. At last, Ren and Stimpy use a saw to sever the head, but due to Stimpy's stupidity, it falls and breaks, revealing the treasure golden caramel corn, just like Stimpy predicted. However, Ren gets scared and asks Stimpy to put the head back. Stimpy tries out faces of Santa Claus, Fidel Castro, and even a dumpster with Lincoln's head drawn. Ren even helps Stimpy make Abe's face with hot dogs, but the jerk pigeons return and devour the meat. Ren and Stimpy also praise to Abe's spirit for help, but he kicks their butt. Later, Ren and Stimpy are taken into questioning, and Sergeant Big Butt uses them to replace Lincoln's head. Stimpy's Cartoon Show. Stimpy's newest ambition is to make a cartoon film, and he is inspired by his idol, Wilbur Cobb, who is probably a parody of Walt Disney. When Ren shows his annoyance and calls the cartoon stupid, Stimpy explains the process of drawing cartoons. Ren looks at Stimpy's Golden Pencil Award for animation and realizes Stimpy could be famous. He wants to join in, but doesn't have any talent. When Stimpy suggests Ren can be the producer instead and hog all the credit, Ren obviously agrees. Thus begins Stimpy's toil to draw the cartoon, while Ren enjoys being the strict producer, spending time relaxing and vacationing. Ren also dismisses Stimpy's entire storyboard, and he has to begin again. Ren's behaviour is somewhat similar to what John Crisfalusi did, as he is notoriously difficult to work with. Meanwhile, the hard work and difficulty in procuring the supplies from the stringent Ren take their toll on Stimpy, and he collapses as he finishes making the film. This episode is a personal favourite of ours, as it pays a special tribute to the artist and the entire production process in making a cartoon. When Ren approves it, an overjoyed Stimpy decides to show it to his idol. Ren doubts whether Cobb will see it, but he is proved wrong. A decaying Wilbur Cobb lectures the duo about absolutely everything, making them extremely uncomfortable. Cobb still agrees to watch the cartoon, and so starts Stimpy's cartoon, I Like Pink. It's a cartoon drawn in a crude, childlike manner, which is basically a love story between Poopy and Explodey, with a villain called Peg Pelvis, Pete, trying to kill them. Poopy and Explodey defeats the villain and kiss, only to explode at the end of the cartoon. As the cartoon finishes, Stimpy gets Cobb's approval and his support, but Cobb is revealed to be in prison, and as he pulls a lever, the three get electrocuted. Lair of the Lummox. Back to another segment of the Untamed world. Ren and Stimpy introduce us to a new creature called the Lummox, found on the island of Ignorania. The Lummox are basically obese, unkempt, oaf-like humans with limited intelligence. As Ren and Stimpy follow the droppings of fast food, they come across the booger red Lummox. When Ren accidentally makes a sound, they draw the Lummox's attention. However, by behaving exactly like him, the duo is able to befriend the Lummox. Disaster strikes when Stimpy calls himself a vegetarian and refuses the purple giblet offered by the Lummox. As the Lummox gets angry and starts behaving like an ape, Ren forces Stimpy to swallow lard, which impresses the Lummox. The Lummox then takes the duo to his home inside a log, and they watch TV all night. The next day, Ren and Stimpy catch some mating action as another tree Lummox appears and pins his underwear to a tree. Feeling competitive, Booger Red Lummox also does the same. Soon, a female Lummox appears in the woods, and she chooses Tree Lummox's underwear, infuriating Booger Red. Booger Red challenges Tree Lummox, and after a competitive display of belching, which involves speaking in fine English, Tree Lummox accepts his defeat. If you are interested in knowing how Booger Red won, it's because he repeated Abraham Lincoln's famous speech. The female Lummox accepts Booger Red as her mate, and beats him into the shape of a bag before taking him away. The episode ends with Ren and Stimpy attracting Lummoxes to their office room and engaging in a bear hug. Jiminy Lummox and Bassmasters. Ren has become notorious for spending time making prank calls, making beavers spread beaver fever, screaming at baby birds and tormenting flies. Stimpy gets upset at Ren's cruelty and decides to lend his own conscience, Jiminy Lummox, to help Ren become better. The oversized Lummox hits or bludgeons Ren whenever he is mean or abusive to Stimpy, and it starts to drive Ren mad. Not that he was perfectly sane, right? At the same time, Stimpy sets Ren off by first using his teeth to descale fish, and later washing all the used celebrity underwear collected by Ren. Ren assumes Stimpy is purposefully aggravating Ren so that he can be beaten up by Lummox. Ren starts acting crazy and strangles Stimpy when Lummox appears and crushes Ren with a car. Ren finally asks Lummox if he has a conscience, to which Lummox introduces Tinker Galoot, who is really Kowalski in a fairy costume. Stimpy explains that it's actually a lesson, And so when Ren hits Stimpy, Lummox hits Ren, and Tinker beats Lummox. Ren is back to tormenting flies in the second segment as he ties one up with a fish hook for fishing. This time, Ren is hosting a television series as the Bass Master as he teaches the viewer how to catch fish, especially the foul-mouthed bass. Ren calls in his assistant Stimpy to carry the worms for bait, while they are joined by prison escapee Wilbur Cobb as they go fishing. While Cobb and Stimpy notice some eager fish on their side. However, as Ren refuses to listen to anybody, they spend more than a day without catching any fish. Ren blames Stimpy and Cobb for scaring away the fish, and so he uses a bucket of chum to lure in the fish. Once again, Cobb and Stimpy do better as Stimpy attracts a fish with a fish whistle he got from a packet of Cracky Jacky. Stimpy befriends the fish, while Ren watches angrily. Speaking of fish, SpongeBob SquarePants voice artist Tom Kenny once auditioned for the role of Ren for this series. For his next trick, Ren uses fake fish to lure in more fish, but a salesman fish approaches him and sells him a pocket weasel that will help him catch fish. But while the pocket weasel shreds Ren's pants, it helps Stimpy catch a fish. Stimpy invites all the fish to the party on the boat, but it drives Ren angry, and he harasses a few fish. The foul-mouthed bass finally appears and challenges Ren. Eager to learn how the fish feel, Ren dives into the water and behaves like a fish, while foul-mouthed bass catches him with a bait. The episode ends with Ren taxidermied as a dumb bass fish, while the foul-mouthed bass tells the story to his grandkid.
Oh, thanks, man.
Ren's retirement. It's Ren's 10th birthday, and he feels strong, energetic, and ready to celebrate. Well, until Stimpy reminds Ren that he is 70 years old in dog years. Ren suddenly starts feeling old and turns into a geriatric person. Stimpy cares for Ren like he is an old person and even takes him to play golf. But Ren meets the Grim Reaper while sitting under a shade. Ren and Stimpy then go coffin shopping, but are willing to pay only $5. Kowalski demonstrates coffins at cheap rates until Ren gets disgusted and wants the best. He is showing a luxurious coffin with a modern home inside it. Now that he has got the best coffin, Ren and Stimpy arrange for a fake funeral. Wilbur Cobb presides over the funeral, while Stimpy demands to join Ren in his coffin. As Ren and Stimpy get accustomed to the afterlife in the coffin, they are visited by the next-door neighbor Worm. The worm invites himself for dinner and eats Ren and Stimpy, leaving them as fleshless husks while he looks for a new home to feast on. Jerry the belly button elf and road apples. Stimpy has become addicted to playing with his belly button and even experimenting with it. Ren tries to warn him that people go insane while doing it. However, Stimpy ignores it, and one day he hears a voice coming from it, calling him. As Stimpy enters his own belly button, he turns into a fleshy knob. Meanwhile, inside the belly button, Stimpy experiences a psychedelic journey accompanied by a song. At last, Stimpy encounters the lint-covered belly button elf, Jerry. However, Jerry turns out to be a toxic fellow who starts treating Stimpy like a slave. In the outside world, Ren finds the fleshy knob and grieves for his friend, but the sounds from inside interest him. While gross-out humor is the main theme of this series, it inspired other series like Two Stupid Dogs, as well as Cow and Chicken, which got good praise from John Kay. Moving on, Ren is soon joined by other characters from the cartoon, and Ren starts hosting a party in their home. Back inside the belly button, Stimpy unintentionally enrages Jerry by serving him lint loaf. Jerry transforms into the pork chop monster Adonis and torments Stimpy. As Stimpy tries to escape the belly button, Ren notices him, but both are drawn back inside the belly button and captured by Adonis. As the duo almost meets their end, the party outside breaks up, as Muddy's wife, Mimby, has eaten all the food. After everyone leaves, Mimby even eats the belly button and giggles. In next part, Ren and Stimpy drag themselves into the desert. Stimpy finds the road, while Ren sees a mirage. They spot an RV, and Ren makes a plan to get a ride. Ren asks Stimpy to pretend to be hit, and even paints tracks on him, but it's Ren who gets run over. the RV still comes, and it's revealed to be the Pipes. The Pipes take them in and give Stimpy blood-sucking sand snails to treat his sunburn, while Mr. Pipe joins Ren in an unusually hot shower. He then shows off the RV interior to the duo, including a butcher shop run by Wilbur Cobb. Several scenes in this episode are cut, while Wilbur Cobb was forcibly added by showrunner Bob Camp. However, Mr. Pipe stops them from eating the delicious food prepared by Mrs. Pipe and gives them skunk milk to drink for health. Stimpy enjoys it while Ren refuses. However, Stimpy forces Ren to drink, and at night, Ren is unable to sleep while the others are in deep slumber. Ren suddenly gets suspicious about who is driving the RV and finds that it's driverless. The driverless RV finally falls into the water, and Mr. Pipe kicks Ren and Stimpy out so that they can release themselves and not soil the bed. However, Wilbur Cobb is also kicked out, as he is the one who has wet the bed.
Arg! You are...
Hard times for Haggis. Scotsman Haggis. McHaggis is famous for his cartoon show The Scotsman, where he beats up his dog Wacky to bring laughs. However, his days of glory are over, as his show gets cancelled and replaced by the Ren and Stimpy show. Haggis is thrown out of the mansion, while Ren and Stimpy are ushered in. Haggis swears revenge on Ren and Stimpy, but unfortunately, even his audiences have turned into Ren and Stimpy's fans. A starving Haggis turns up in a park after weeks and tries eating pigeon food with the other pigeons, but he is quickly ousted. The muscular, thug-like pigeons beat him down and joined by the elderly woman feeding them. Next, Haggis finds his own stuffed doll being sold at an antique shop for free. His spirits lift when a mysterious cloaked person buys the stuffed Haggis doll and hides in an alley. An excited Haggis follows and finds out that it's Wacky and gets overwhelmed, but to his horror, Wacky shreds the doll into pieces as revenge for all the torture he endured. This is one of the rarest episodes that has used digital ink and paint instead of the regular traditional animation techniques. Meanwhile, Ren and Stimpy enjoy a life of luxury. Haggis finally decides to give up on life, but comes across an advertisement about rent a thug for cheap. Haggis hires the thugs and turns up at the studio. The thugs restrain Ren and Stimpy and later play with the puppets Ben and Stumpy. Haggis rejoices when Ben and Stumpy get their own show and are rewarded. But in a twist of events, Haggis, Ren and Stimpy are thrown out. The story finishes with the three sitting together as Haggis cries and keeps hitting Stimpy. Eat my cookies and Ren's bitter half. Ren and Stimpy attend the Barrett Girls' Camp, and a very intimidating scout leader decrees that the duo must go through several tests before they can officially join. Ren and Stimpy are sent to sell cookies in the desert, but when Stimpy feels hungry, they finish off all the cookies. When a buyer approaches them, Ren and Stimpy fill the boxes with cactus, but the buyer likes it and buys all the boxes. However, Ren is cheated out of the money by the shrewd scout girls, and the scout leader suggests that they can still win the snipe hunting badge by catching the animal. Ren refuses to believe there's any animal called snipe, but Stimpy successfully catches one. As Stimpy wins the badge, Ren is dejected, but the scout leader surreptitiously hands him a handbook advising on easy ways to earn a badge. Ren and Stimpy get onto collecting the Falling Off Rocks badge, collecting Badger Eggs badge, and the Bravery in the Face of Certain Doom badge. As Ren finally earns his place, the scout girls unzip their skin to reveal that they are actually old men. Stimpy also reveals himself to be an old man, while Ren also gives in and reveals he only has a skeleton inside. In the second part, a narrator starts off the story, as Stimpy delves into genetic engineering, which sounds rather scary. In fact, making another butt is definitely a start of something horrendous. Stimpy shows off his XB49 gene splicing formula to an irritated Ren. However, Ren is hungry and upset, so he shakes the formula just to annoy Stimpy. The formula reacts and falls on Ren, splitting him into evil Ren and indifferent Ren. Stimpy is glad that now he has two friends, but soon evil Ren goes on a rampage, while indifferent Ren couldn't care less. However, Stimpy reaches his threshold when evil Ren turns the house into his lair and starts dropping Stimpy's Happy Happy Joy Joy record, Mousy, and the litter box into acid. This, along with the previous episode, is banned on Paramount Plus for depicting Nazism. Stimpy passes out in sadness, but when he wakes up, he finds himself and an indifferent Ren tied up. Evil Ren re-prepares the XB49 formula and drops it on himself, splitting into Evil Ren and Hideously Evil Ren. However, on a peculiar turn of events, the evil Rens fall in love and get married. As they drive off to the sunset, they drag the captives along with them. Season 4, Hermit Ren. A very tired Ren returns home after work to find Stimpy blasting his own version of Kumbaya. The chicken is also burnt, and when it burns Ren's tongue, Stimpy feeds him with expired milk. Fed up with his antics and stupidity, Ren leaves, deciding to live alone. Ren is welcomed by the Hermits Union representative and given his own cave in the mountains, but on the condition that Ren has to live absolutely alone. However, as Ren tries to move around his rock furniture, he comes across a mummified bog man. Months pass, and while still joyful, Stimpy waits for Ren's return. The Chihuahua starts to lose it. A starving Ren starts hallucinating the bats as cow tits and tries to milk them. He also hallucinates the bat dung as old farmer Hoek, who advises Ren on eating the bugs. Meanwhile, Stimpy also starts missing Ren and creates a statue of Ren out of his earwax. Back in the cave, Hermit Ren starts hearing the mummified bog man, who tells Ren that he is still accompanied by the three emotions anger, fear, and ignorance. Yet nothing makes Ren happy. And one day, he stumbles upon another pile of bat shit, which looks like Stimpy to him. At last, the Hermit Union leader gets a sniff of Ren keeping company and kicks him out in violation of the rules. Everyone salutes Ren as he leaves with the statue of Stimpy on his back. As Ren returns, the two friends and their statues reunite. House of Next Tuesday and A Friend in Your Face. Ren and Stimpy are shown the futuristic House of Next Tuesday, and the first thing they come across is a Jerky 2000 machine for making beef jerky. Ren accidentally falls into the machine and is turned into processed food. Next, Ren needs to use the toilet, but the toilet seat is too cold and Stimpy switches a button to make it warmer. A lummox is dropped so that he can warm the seat, and Ren enjoys pooping. After that, Ren witnesses Stimpy watching virtual TV while wearing a helmet-like device. While watching virtual TV cooking, Ren first finds himself as the chef, and then as the lobster being cooked. Ren uses his lobster claws to decapitate Stimpy's nose. When it's time to sleep, they find an Insta-bed pill that inflates when a single drop of water is administered to it. When Stimpy wets his bed, the bed becomes larger, but with a giant ant outside, Ren and Stimpy decide to use the time machine. However, they are taken to an immediate past of when Ren was turned into a crustacean. The second segment makes it to our most senseless and mindless plot list. It has Stimpy harbouring a face parasite called Choo Choo Nong Nong living in his face. At first, Ren dismisses Stimpy's claim as a weird dream, but Ren is in for a hellish ride as Choo Choo's cousin Noonie Bratweiler arrives and takes up residence next door in Ren's face. However, Noonie blasts loud music in Ren's ears, wrestles with his pet pig, grows ticks and pests with natural manure, parties, and even cooks food. At one point, even Stimpy joins the party, making Ren mad. Poor Ren tries everything to get rid of the parasite, but fails. When Noonie sets fire to Ren's face, the fire chief arrives and puts out the fire, but he marks Ren's head as inhabitable and soon to be demolished. However, Stimpy insists on renovating it. On the opening day, several other hosts take residence in the newly built condominium tower in Ren's head. Blazing entrails and lumber jerks. One fine day, Stimpy starts acting weird. Yes, weirder than usual. And Ren decides it's time to visit a doctor. Ren takes Stimpy to see Dr. Brainchild and is greeted by his one-eyed mother. Dr. Brainchild appears similar to his mother as they both have a similar swollen head. Dr. Brainchild informs that Stimpy's brain is damaged, which means he could die, and asks Ren to investigate the matter. Dr. Brainchild enlarges Stimpy in size so that Ren can enter. At first, Ren gets blown up by Stimpy's inflammable fart. Ren then enters the stomach and is harassed by a coin and a corn that Stimpy has swallowed. Soon, Ren meets the various antibodies and falls in love with one. They spend a year together and have children of their own. While telling the children stories about how Ren met their mother, he suddenly remembers Stimpy. Moving on, Ren finds Stimpy's ignorance gland beating down on Stimpy's brain. As Ren distracts the ignorance gland, a chimpanzee arrives with Dr. Brainchild's letter informing Ren that Stimpy would soon be deflated. However, it's too late, and although Stimpy is reinstated to his old self, Ren remains comfortably inside Stimpy's head. Prehistoric Stimpy and farm hands. Ren and Stimpy visit the Museum of History, but have Wilbur Cobb as their guide. The fellow starts ranting about a ludicrous story about how life started on the hot, wet planet in the form of single-celled amoebas resembling Ren and Stimpy. Wilbur shows them the skeleton of the largest dinosaur, the Stimpysaurus, which is the stupidest of them all. While telling his story, Wilbur, Ren and Stimpy are either in a bathtub or sitting on one of the skeletons, or maybe in a dustbin. However, they are doing it all in front of the public, and especially nuns. Wilbur chronicles how the Stimpysaurus came into being from amoebas and stimpyfish. However, the first stimpyfish dies in a tar pit, while the second is hit by a bus. Wilbur then proceeds to tell them about the most vicious dinosaur, Rhinosaurus. But it turns out to be really small and got trampled by the stupid Stimpysaurus. Stimpysaurus gave shelter and heat to the earliest humans, which again resembles Ren. Wilbur concludes his story by saying that the Stimpysaurus died by drinking tar water and became extinct. Ren and Stimpy then have the audacity to ask how the rest of the dinosaurs got extinct, to which they receive a bunch of absurd answers from Wilbur Cobb, including watching too much TV. When Cobb gets arrested for impersonating a guide, he claims to be the one who killed all the dinosaurs. Later, Ren and Stimpy also suffer a similar fate as the Stimpysaurus, as they fall and drown in a tar pit exhibit. The next story has Abner Dimwit and Ewalt Nitwit back in the picture. The duo has a farm, but finds it difficult to find child labour to do the chores. All their previous children have died, and now they summon Ren and Stimpy from a dehydrated children box to do their chores. However, Ren has to soon fend off angry gangster hens. Ren dresses up as a poor hen and collects lots of eggs, only to be stopped by a lover-boy rooster that feeds him worms and rocks. Later, during lunch, Abner stops Ren and Stimpy from eating the delicious food and plucks out all their teeth to stop them from decaying and causing disease. Ren and Stimpy manage to feed the pigs, but they are actually Abner and Ewalt, who send them to milk a gorilla called Bossy. The gorilla assaults Ren, while Stimpy bonds with Mr. Horse but saves Ren and bonds with Bossy. Stimpy manages to milk the gorilla, while Ren manages to unwillingly entertain Mr. Horse. During harvesting corn, Abner and Ewalt spy on Ren and Stimpy, while dressed up as scarecrows. Ren and Stimpy are then sent to dig a hole for Bossy to do her business, but Bossy arrives before they are finished. Disaster strikes when there is suddenly a tornado, while Abner remembers it happens every day at 4 p.m. Ren and Stimpy seek shelter in the toilet, while Abner and Ewalt wear seat belts to weather the storm. As Ren wonders if everything will be blown away, Bossy enters the toilet and defecates on them, keeping them safe. Magical golden singing cheeses. The first story is about Renwaldo and Stimpleton, two medieval brothers who were starving. Renwaldo gives Stimpleton the last chigger to get food, but Stimpleton foolishly loses the chigger to the village fool. The jester eats the chigger and promises to give Stimpleton the magical golden singing cheese if he can prove himself to be more stupid. Stimpy wins and takes the cheese to Ren, but he doesn't like it and asks Stimpy to bury it. While digging a hole, Stimpy encounters a Cyclops sleeping underneath. When the Cyclops inquires about the cheese, Stimpy lies that they are shoes. The Cyclops takes the cheese anyway and wears it as shoes. After a few months, Renwaldo can't tolerate the hunger anymore and asks Stimpleton to bring the cheese. However, the cheese has rotten, and when Stimpleton tries to pry it open, he hurts the Cyclops, who demands Stimpleton's kidney in exchange for the cheese. Renwaldo and Stimpleton consume the rotten cheese with difficulty, but it breaks the curses on the magical milk-curd princesses, whom Renwaldo and Stimpleton marry before they pass out of hunger. The next story is about Haggis McHaggis, who is upset he has no hair on his head. He takes a strip of his butler Myron's back hair and tries to put it on his head, but it slides off. During breakfast, Myron finds a leprechaun prize and accidentally summons it by spitting on it. Haggis asks the leprechaun to give him hair, but the leprechaun promises to fulfill Haggis's wishes if he can manage his temper. The leprechaun starts retelling Haggis's story while plucking out the 3 hairs on his head, but it drives Haggis mad and he beats Myron. For the last chance, the leprechaun suggests that Haggis must stay in the dark for 1 minute. Haggis is lowered into a well while Myron sits and covers the well. A second test about generosity is missing from the DVDs. Despite his confidence, staying alone in the dark tunnel takes its toll on Haggis as he starts to hear and see things. As Haggis eventually lights a match, he finds an actual monster outside. Having failed all the tests, Haggis cries out in desperation, finally melting the leprechaun's heart. He gives Haggis the grossest bean to eat, and Haggis grows a stem of black hair on his head, but he blows up unexpectedly. I love chicken and powdered toast. Man versus waffle woman. So while preparing the store-bought chicken, Stimpy falls in love with it. Ren has bought the chicken and grows impatient as he waits for dinner. When he checks up on Stimpy, he gets disgusted by the lovemaking. However, Stimpy simply chastises Ren for interfering in their love story. Stimpy runs off to Las Vegas with his newly engaged fiancée and gets married. He returns 2 weeks later after the honeymoon, but Ren is still waiting for his chicken dinner. At night, Ren, Chicken and Stimpy share the same bed, and Ren replaces Chicken with a football. As he tries to roast the chicken, Stimpy finds out and saves his wife. The next day, Stimpy tries to pamper his wife, but finds a pineapple has replaced Chicken. Stimpy finds Ren making sausages out of the chicken and saves it. Ren still has a trick up his sleeve as he cries to Stimpy for not paying him enough attention. They go for a picnic, but Ren keeps Stimpy waiting, and when the cat returns home, he finds Stimpy finishing his chicken dinner. Stimpy retires to his bed in agony and despair. He stays there for a month and goes to cook dinner when Ren angrily snaps at him. Once again, Stimpy falls in love with a goat head and gets engaged. In the next part, Powdered Toast Man receives an important message while he is at a church congregation. It's from a terminally ill little boy called Johnny who wishes to meet the president before he falls asleep. As Powdered Toast Man leaves to fulfill Johnny's wishes, it is covered by the news, and a woman named Vicky Velcro simmers with anger as she watches it. Apparently, Vicky was the president of the Liquid Waffle Company, and her business thrived until Powdered Toast Man showed up. Vicky promises to get her revenge on Powdered Toast Man, who currently breaks into the UN building, stops the president from signing the peace treaty that will end all war forever. Powdered Toast Man grabs the president and flies back to little Johnny. To fly extra fast, he uses warp speed but catches fire. When he turns up at the hospital, the president has burned up into dust and little Johnny starts crying before collapsing. This utter failure leads to the Powdered Toast Man's fall from glory, and Vicky finds it a golden opportunity to strike back. She enters an enormous waffle iron to transform into the Waffle Woman. As Powdered Toast Man watches Stimpy's cartoon show, I Like Pink, a message from Waffle Woman appears, and she challenges Powdered Toast Man to a match. She promises to destroy little Johnny's TV set if Powdered Toast Man doesn't turn up. As the two go off at each other, it starts destroying the world. Finally, Powdered Toast Man crushes the waffle iron, defeating Waffle Woman, but she promises to get back at him. Little Johnny rejoices as it turns out he is the only survivor after the Great War. Doubleheader and the Scotsman in space. In this story, Ren tries to send Stimpy to Ursa Minor by bus, but Stimpy pleads with Ren to let him stay back. Ren remembers all the stupid things that Stimpy did to unintentionally annoy him and refuses to listen. However, as luck would have it, both of them get struck by the Ursa Minor bus and are operated on. The doctors sew them together to keep the duo alive, but it only complicates Ren's life. Stimpy's snore spoils his sleep. while Stimpy drags Ren in the middle of the night to watch TV. The actual disaster strikes when they visit Ren's workplace, which is a factory where nuclear cells are loaded. Despite Ren's protest, Stimpy pulls a lever and causes a massive explosion. They are ultimately kicked out and sent to the only place they belong, the circus. The two manage to impress the manager with their antics, but Ren's rudeness almost drives the audience away. Ren forces himself to chomp on a chicken head to get back the audience. As Ren and Stimpy get crushed by the Ursa Minor meteorite, they are taken back to the hospital, and this time only Ren's head could be salvaged, which gets attached to Stimpy's back. Things turn worse as Stimpy eats his favourite boson-baked beans and farts into Ren's face. The second part takes us back to the space, where Commander Hoek is again suffering from space madness as he and Cadet Stimpy are on a 36-year mission to get a pack of gum. Ren starts seeing things and suspects Stimpy is again plotting against him, but soon it's revealed that the floating object is none other than Scotsman Haggis McHaggis. Ren and Stimpy allow Haggis to enter and use the universal translator to decode his Scottish accent. Turns out Haggis is looking for his sheep, but Stimpy mistranslates it and thinks Haggis is hungry. Stimpy cooks haggis for Haggis, but the Scotsman gets mad as it's without chutney. Ren and Stimpy sedate the Scotsman and dissect him. Stimpy feasts on Haggis's brain and finds that he doesn't have teeth and it's all wood. They also takes a slice off his butt and finds a wallet, but is unable to examine it. The poking wakes up Haggis, and he starts believing Ren and Stimpy are his sheep. Haggis takes the duo to the meadow level of the spaceship and makes them graze, grow wool, shear them and make a dress out of them. Ren and Stimpy finally dress up as Scotsmen and eat breakfast with Haggis. However, the overcooked eggs make Haggis panic and he dies while his dirty wallet falls out. As Ren cleans the wallet, a genie comes out and grants Ren and Stimpy 3 wishes. With the first wish, Ren gains money and beautiful women. Ren is finally happy for the first time, while Stimpy begs Ren to let him make the next 2 wishes. Ren allows him the rest of the wishes, but Stimpy wishes that no one will ever need material possessions ever again, and everyone is equal. As a result, they are stripped of everything, including the spaceship, and the 3 women turn into men of colour. For his final wish, Stimpy wants it to be always sunny, where no one grows old. The wish is fulfilled as Ren and Stimpy inch towards the sun, where they are burned alive. Pixie King. The first story begins with Stimpy sitting on his cat litter engaging the toilet when Ren comes knocking on the door. Ren can barely control himself when Stimpy says he can't do his business without a story. Ren begrudgingly agrees and starts telling the story of 2 elves, Ren and Stimpy. After Ren and Stimpy wake up, they wash themselves as Stimpy reminds Ren that pixies must be clean and shave their body hair. They dress up in elf costumes and board the bug bus, but as they haven't got their wings yet, they must sit at the back. However, it might take as long as the pixies are mostly old people. They clock in at work and start kissing flowers, singing weird songs about dying. Next, the duo collects pollen from the bee's abdomen, and Ren gets impaled by a bee's stinger. The last task is to collect pixie dust, which is actually mucus from a sleeping human. Later, Ren overhears 2 elves talking about the king's death, and Ren schemes to replace him. He wakes up early and drags Stimpy to finish the tasks. Ren spits on flowers to harvest dew and collects much pollen, which earns him and Stimpy the wings they desired. But that's not all, as Ren again overhears elves discussing that whoever gathers the most pixie dust will be crowned king. Ren and Stimpy find a large man and try to obtain dust from the man's eye gunk, but Stimpy wakes up the man. The man thrashes Ren and leaves, but Ren has got the dust. He is hailed by the elves in the village and soon crowned king. But before Ren can make his first proclamation, Stimpy stops Ren and asks him to fulfill his kingly duties. Ren is forced to consume the royal jelly, transform into a giant worm, and lay eggs. As the story comes to an end, Ren can barely hold himself. Thankfully, Stimpy finishes and Ren enters the toilet, but seeks the book to clean himself. Second part begins with Ren noticing Stimpy watching TV and berates him. When he returns home, Ren still finds Stimpy glued to the TV. Stimpy has developed a classic addiction to TV, and while watching Cookin' with the Chicken, he sets the place on fire by trying to cook chicken. The firemen arrive, but start watching Fire Patrol while eating the chicken that Ren wanted to eat. At night, Stimpy tries to sleep with the TV, but Ren kicks them both out. The next day, Ren takes Stimpy out to play in nature, but Stimpy rides his bicycle up the tree and starts watching TV with the birds. As an angry Ren buries the TV, Stimpy mourns the loss. But soon, Ren catches Stimpy watching TV in the underground. Ren digs up the TV and destroys it with a shovel, while completely ignoring Stimpy's plea. As Stimpy suffers a meltdown, Ren smacks him down to reality. However, Stimpy starts watching television whenever he goes to the toilet, and Ren comes to realize it. Eventually, Ren finds Stimpy green and glowing, indicating he has OD'd on TV. Ren then sends Stimpy to the basement so that he can't hurt himself. But Stimpy suffers nightmares, prays to God for TV, and has other withdrawal symptoms. After a year, Ren finds Stimpy sober and lets him out. But now Stimpy has developed an addiction to gambling. Cheese Rush Days and Wiener Barons. In this story, Ren and Stimpy are American miners looking forward to mining blue cheese. They learn about the recent blue cheese rush and head to the Blue Cheese Mountain, with Stimpy pulling the carriage and Ren playing banjo. On their way, they encounter a prospector who shows off his blue cheese ornaments all over his body. Stimpy then feeds a buffalo, whose dung is used to make a cozy igloo for the family. During the campfire dinner, they feast on buffalo chips, and Ren dismisses the old wives' tale about the savage French chefs. But to his horror, the cactus turns into the French chefs, and they start boiling Ren and Stimpy in a stew. Ren tries to convince the chefs otherwise, but ultimately, they end up being roasted on a skewer grill. After getting slow cooked, the duo barely makes it to the Blue Cheese Mountain. Ren starts mining and gets blisters, and then he suddenly smells the cheese gas. He uses a yellow canary to check, but the canary doesn't smell anything and lights a cigar, only to explode, proving the gas is deadly. Stimpy notices a vein of cheese, but Ren steals it, locking Stimpy out and leaving him to starve. The canary is somehow alive and befriends Stimpy, who finally swears off friendship with Ren. Practically, this should have happened much earlier, but never mind, it's not going to stick. The prospector appears and points out that Stimpy and Canary are sitting on a piece of blue cheese. Later, Ren gets kicked out for trying to sell less valuable cheese, while he notices Stimpy, Canary, and the prospector driving by in a luxury car and gets run over by it. The second part continues a similar theme. It starts off with a homeless Ren and Stimpy looking for jobs in the newspaper. All the jobs that Ren reads out are crappy to Stimpy, until they come across an ad proclaiming a boom in Canada's winer industry. As usual, Ren dreams of getting rich by harvesting weenies. They took on the quest to travel to Canada, first by train and then on foot. However, when they reach the Canadian border, a big, brutish Canadian guard kicks them out. Ren and Stimpy try to cross the baked beans moat on top of a dead pig, but it leaks, and Ren almost drowns in beans, while Stimpy saves him. Ren and Stimpy then disguise themselves as winer inspectors and enter Canada, where every landscape is shaped like weenies. In no time, Ren and Stimpy are harvesting wieners in every possible way. Or should we say, Stimpy is slogging away, while Ren just keeps ordering. But never mind, most of the heroes and their sidekicks share a toxic relationship. Ren and Stimpy become the winer barons as they appear in newspapers, and then enjoy a life of luxury. However, everything comes crashing down when a news report that weenies have become useless due to the emergence of plastic weenies. Ren and Stimpy are thrown back to the alleys, and a demented Ren claims that he had a vision where it rained baked beans for 40 days and nights. But they escaped to America on an ark made out of the useless weenies. The vision comes true, allowing Ren and Stimpy to return to the US for good. Galoot Wranglers. One day, as they sit by the fire, Wilbur Cobb tells Ren and Stimpy the story of the Galoot and Galoot Wranglers. As he tells the story, Cobb's nose falls off and he roasts it like a potato. Cobb's story takes them to the wild west of the past, when Galoots arrived in America. They are essentially a lummox subspecies and were attracted by junk food and almost went extinct due to the heat. However, one smart American Indian warrior hunted a Galoot and used their pelt for warmth. It quickly became a fashion sensation in Europe, as well as a great source of meat. As Wilbur Cobb continues his ridiculous story, ant colonies start to build on the campfire attendees. Wilbur now tells the story about the entry of the Galoot Wranglers, who are again ancestors of Ren and Stimpy. The Wranglers followed the Galoot dropping of stale pizza and discovered their colony. They checked the Galoot's decaying teeth and earwax to assess their age and then brand them with a hot iron for sale, while others are taken to compete. After competing in various races, Mr. Horse makes an appearance as the judge and examines the galoots for their lack of hygiene and grossness. Ren cheats, but no matter what, the galoots are sold for meat. Stimpy gets attached to the booger red lummox galoot, but Ren reminds him of the bicycle he wanted, and Stimpy lets him go, while Stimpy is rewarded with a baby galoot. As Cobb finishes his story, he claims to drop dead if the story is untrue. Cobb dies just then, and the duo buries him. Ren and Stimpy then ride off with their pet lummox, Superstitious, Stimpy and Travelogue. Stimpy has suddenly become too superstitious. As he nails a board head on the wall, Ren gets disturbed by all the noise. Stimpy explains it's to expel bad luck as it's Tuesday the 17th, the most unlucky day of the year. Ren refuses to believe any such superstition, and the headless boar arrives from nowhere. It gets angry and reunites with its head, bringing more bad luck to Ren. Later, when Ren tries to grill beef, Stimpy steals the carcass and worships it. Ren gets furious and throws it back to his bed. An overdramatic Stimpy tries to ward off the bad juju, only enraging Ren further. Now, as we were, Ren rocks. Cooks the beef on the bed, while Stimpy crosses his path dressed in all black. It's as if Ren is challenging the gods, but Stimpy notices a red birthmark on Ren's cheek and finds that Ren has webbed toes as well as a unicorn horn, indicating that he is one unlucky beast. Ren cries and confesses that he was born on Tuesday the 17th. Stimpy comes to his best bud's rescue and tries several rituals to ward off the bad luck. Finally, Stimpy makes Ren wear a variety of things and keeps pig intestines in his mouth. Ren fails to hold the pose till the next day, and soon he is struck by lightning. As Ren keeps getting shocked, Stimpy gives him the family heirloom, the leper's foot. Unfortunately, the wild boar arrives with the leper missing his foot, and he beats Ren before retrieving his foot. Stimpy ultimately assures Ren that it's actually good luck to be mauled by a leper. Now, in the final part, Ren and Stimpy are back with their travel show, and this time they are covering a nation called Acromegalia. Stimpy also shows off the essential items that one should bring during such expeditions. However, to keep things light, Stimpy has packed almost everything, including a chair. Stimpy and Ren then load up the luggage on a wildebeest, which almost breaks its bones. But wait, did we see a terrorist on board the flight with a bomb dressed like his wife? Never mind. The show was always controversial. As the plane approaches Acromegalia, Ren and Stimpy notice the angry crowd, but misconstrue it as a welcoming party. The uncouth and barbaric residents of Acromegalia start bombing the aircraft, forcing it to crash land. Ren and Stimpy politely and excitedly greet the residents, but are met with rudeness and insults. The duo is also submerged in boiling water to test, and later, the duo is treated to a meal of monkey brain soup. Just like us, Stimpy is disgusted by the food and throws it up. Ren tries to eat it, but also vomits it out, earning the citizens' appreciation. During a guided tour by an Elvis Presley-like lummox, Ren and Stimpy explain that Acromegalia's economy is maintained by the exporting new Americans who are grown on a farm. He then takes the duo to Disgraceland, which is guarded by the baboon. This is actually a parody of Elvis Presley's home, Graceland. A baboon attacks Ren and rips off his face from his skull and throws it onto a tree branch, but Ren still takes a picture with the guard. Finally, Ren informs that they are lucky to be in Acromegalia during the Revolution Day celebration. It is when one revolution is celebrated with another. Moreover, past king is replaced by a new thug-like one called Zazu. With this, Ren and Stimpy conclude their program, but they have been beheaded and are reporting while their heads are stuck on spikes.
Deep inside my pocket?
Season 5. Old Blue Nose and Stupid Sidekick Union. At a bus station, Stimpy loses all his change while watching the Louis Lungbubble show. Ren gets angry and hits Stimpy's blue nose, which suddenly starts singing in a honey-like voice. Stimpy goes by the name of Snotra, which is a parody of Frank Sinatra. Ren cashes in on Stimpy's talent, but takes care of him anyway, as Stimpy climbs the ladder of success. However, the relationship might have changed a little, as Stimpy orders Ren around. Just when Ren decides to quit, Stimpy finally gets the opportunity to sing at the Louis Lungbubble show. Before the show, Stimpy gets angry at Ren for not getting one of his things and counting money. Stimpy points out that the money is actually his, but Ren rejects the idea and hits Stimpy's nose. At this, the nose gets angry and leaves them, revealing he was the one singing. Stimpy sings poorly, and Ren tries to run away with the money, and they both get kicked out, while Blue Nose gets signed. However, the nose couldn't stay separated from Stimpy and returned to them, reunited once again. In the next story, Stimpy is done with Ren, always smacking him. Stimpy gets a call from the stupid sidekick union about them going on a strike over pay and other things. Stimpy asks Ren to sign a contract that says Ren can't hit Stimpy without permission and has to pay fees for slapping. Ren refuses and Stimpy leaves to join the protest. Ren calls to hire scab actor Tex, but he proves to be too stupid and is kicked out. This episode is directed by Ron Hughart, but Tom McGrath gets credited for his amazing storyboarding. Ren arranges for a sidekick audition for scab actors only, and a lot of known faces, including Hanna-Barbera characters, make a cameo. However, a terrified Ren is forced to recruit a scary baboon. This barely works as the baboon breaks Stimpy's neck. Next, Stimpy recruits a Shakespearean theatre actor, but even he quits the show. At last, Stimpy disguises himself as a female fan and tries to make Ren sign the contract. Ren recognizes Stimpy, but signs it in the name of George Washington. The episode ends with Stimpy getting smacked repeatedly for money. Space Dogged and Feud 4. Ren and Stimpy are Russians in this episode as they get trained and prepared before they are sent to space. They are also filmed as they go through the harsh process. However, the first few attempts with other astronauts were not a success as the rockets blew up. A man tries to switch cards with Ren and Stimpy, but their superior Kowalski is not fooled. Finally, it's time for the rocket carrying Ren and Stimpy to take off. Simultaneously, the USA rocket piloted by two pigs also takes off. On the other hand, the Soviet rocket faces a few hiccups and has trouble staying afloat. Ren and Stimpy incinerate potatoes and furniture to finally reach space. As Stimpy tries to steal gas from the USA rocket, he mistakenly fits the pipe to a septic tank and pulls in a pig. The pig incinerates himself, giving the Russian rocket a boost, while the other pig also joins the race. However, Ren and Stimpy use their soiled underwear and socks to power the spacecraft. They win the race and return to Earth, only to land on USA soil. As they are falsely portrayed as Americans, the pig who came second is hailed as a Soviet. The next segment has Abner and Ewalt engaged in a feud. A con man decides to take advantage of their stupidity. The swindling salesman keeps selling random and useless items to both in the name of fashion and instigates them against each other. In exchange, he demands a lump sum amount of money. The salesman also sells items like elephant tosser and elephant catcher to keep the feud going. The story is a really good parody of what actually happens in the world. Abner starts to realize they are being fooled, but the salesman's subtle insults and words of support for Ewalt make him think otherwise. It eventually leads to a nuclear war and blast, with Abner and Ewalt finally calling a truce after losing it all. A live-action nuke footage is used in this scene, which reappeared in a SpongeBob episode. Meanwhile, the salesman rejoices and leaves with all the money and Abner's granddad. Hair of the Cat and City Hicks. Ren is sick and sneezing, while Stimpy's hair is everywhere as he sheds. Stimpy realizes that Ren has an allergy, but the duo fails to identify the source of it. Meanwhile, Stimpy's hair is all over their establishment, including food and clothing. Stimpy makes Ren wear a mask and takes him outside to breathe fresh air, but a mosquito mistakes Ren for a female mate prospect. When Ren takes off his mask, the mosquito gets upset and stings Ren, who becomes swollen. Ren sterilizes all his things in the house, but once again fails to notice Stimpy's hair everywhere. As they sleep in the same bed, the room in Ren's eyes makes it difficult to see. Stimpy helps Ren, but Ren soon realizes that Stimpy's hair is the cause of his allergy. Ren stuffs Stimpy in a pickle jar, but the episode ends with Stimpy handing Ren a pickle from the same jar. Before we move on to the next story, let us tell you an open secret. John Kay has been accused of sexual allegations by Katie Price and Robin Bird. So that's one more scandalous affair that will forever stick with Ren and Stimpy. In City Hicks, Ren and Stimpy start as dirt farmers using gravel and dirt-filled food. However, when rain and crop bloom ruin their field, the duo decides to visit the city. They find themselves in a hostile world as their sheep get towed away, while they get beaten up by thugs who steal their feminine clothes for cross-dressing. The duo finds grime on the road and tries to harvest it, but the City Animals Union informs them that they must work from the bottom. Ren and Stimpy start their union life by working on buildings, dressing up as cockroaches for testing, and then fishing and processing immigrants in New York City. When their job is taken by the immigrants, the duo attempts suicide, but Dusty Claus appears with a flourish of dust. Dusty Claus takes them away to work in his dust mines. Stimpy's pet and Ren's brain. When a baby circus clown is left abandoned outside Ren and Stimpy's house, Stimpy readily adopts him and calls him Sid, much to Ren's chagrin. The baby clown has a split personality, as he is often a cigar-smoking midget. Ren doesn't let Sid sleep with them and throws him out, but Sid emotionally manipulates Stimpy, who brings him back. Sid quickly becomes a nuisance for Ren, who tries to lecture Stimpy, but Sid bites Ren's buttocks. However, let's be clear. Sid is more like a pet dog to Stimpy than a kid. The next day, Ren returns home to find their house in ruins and the fire chief tied up. He was probably after the circus midget. At night, Ren manages to put Sid in a bag and dispose of him in the sewers. As Sid goes missing, Stimpy gets distraught and even thinks he has died, but 9 weeks later, Sid emerges from the sewers like a demon and returns to take his revenge on Ren. The next day, Ren wakes up with a stinking smell and discovers that Sid has returned with puppies. Ren finds the puppies cute, but they are attacked anyway. As for the next part, Stimpy experiments with brains, but none of them are to his liking. He finally notices the perfect brain inside Ren. Stimpy lobotomizes Ren and retrieves the brain, which he keeps in a special tank overnight. However, when the brain wakes up, it fails to realize that it is just the brain and not Ren. This segment was written by Chris Falusi before he was fired and was supposed to be a part of Season 2. As Ren's brain goes to work, Stimpy finds the brain missing and panics. To his relief, the brainless Ren has become stupid, and Stimpy inserts a telephone in place of the brain. Stimpy also finally gets to enjoy a day with Ren's body. At the end of the day, Ren's brain finishes work and returns to his friend, only to find him on the couch with Ren's body. Brain fails to recognize his own body and assumes that Stimpy is cheating him with another chihuahua. As Stimpy tries to sedate the brain, Ren's body broadcasts it and drives every viewer anxious, and their heads blow up, destroying America and Earth while the brain floats away. Bellhops and dog tags. Ren and Stimpy are working as bellhops in a hotel where the manager warns them not to disturb Mr. Noggin, the celebrity living in the penthouse. The managers also ask them to keep the press and the paparazzi away from the mysterious and secretive Mr. Noggin. Meanwhile, Mrs. Buttloaves arrives at the hotel, and the boys take her to her room to be only paid in a hairy breath mint. Next, the boys are tasked to take an awe-inspiring box to Mr. Noggin. But despite the prohibition, Ren opens the box to find a hat inside. Mr. Noggin takes the box from a tiny hatch and rewards them with another breath mint. Later, as Stimpy takes out the trash, a reporter hiding in the dustbin offers Stimpy $5 to take a picture of Mr. Noggin. The man ups the amount, but Stimpy refuses, swearing by his bellhop oath. On the other hand, Ren gets stuck to Mrs. Butlove's back while applying her lotion and leaves a mark. The manager sees it and sends Ren on garbage duty. The trash can man makes the same offer to Ren, who takes it up for $5, but Stimpy tries to stop him. The duo finds out that Mr. Noggin is only ahead, and Stimpy tries to protect him from being photographed. As Stimpy jumps out of the window with Mr. Noggin, they fall over Mrs. Butlove's. It's love at first sight for Mr. Noggin and Mrs. Butlove's. As they get married, Mr. Noggin thanks Ren and pays him $1 million, only for the manager to take it away. Before we proceed to the next segment, this is the final time 2 back-to-back segments are directed by the same person, and in this case, Ken Bruce. Now, in the second story, Ren is getting ready to attend the annual Dog Lodge meeting when Stimpy begs Ren to let him join. However, as cats are not allowed, Stimpy makes a stupid hat with a hamburger steak. 2 guard dogs check the attendees before letting them in and kick out a walrus masquerading as a dog. When it's Stimpy's turn, he goes overboard with barking and everything, but gets allowed inside. But luck doesn't shine on Ren, as he gets stopped for looking like a mosquito. This has been a recurring joke since the series began. Ren's ID has expired, and the guards believe that Ren is a rodent with a mosquito's face, and make him go through a series of impossible tests, including marrying a millionaire to prove himself to be a dog. Ren worries about Stimpy, who successfully wins a contest and is crowned. In the final task, Ren is asked to clean himself in public, but Ren surrenders and attempts suicide. Stimpy notices him in time, and, after abandoning his new dog friends, Stimpy takes Ren to a cat bar to celebrate. I was a teenage Stimpy, and who's stupid now? Ren and Stimpy have a slightly different equation in the first story. Stimpy has pimples as he is about to enter puberty. Ren hands him the Hoek family grooming kit, and Stimpy tries to pull his pimples. As Ren reads out the symptoms of cat puberty, Stimpy undergoes several changes, including growing new teeth and developing a more muscular body. Soon, Stimpy starts to show more teenage-like behaviour as he makes prank calls like Ren and talks on the phone for hours, spends time with his rowdy friends, and shuts Ren out like a typical teenager. These friends are overgrown Archie and Jughead from Archie Comics. While Ren watches home movies of young Stimpy, he sneaks into Ren's room and steals the adult Husk magazine featuring pornography. Soon, Ren finds Stimpy has formed a pupa with the magazine pages, and what emerges is Super Stimpy. Ren hopes Stimpy will now take care of him, but Super Stimpy leaves, promising to return when he needs money. As he flies close to the sun, Super Stimpy burns out. In the next segment, Ren and Stimpy are told that their show is cancelled unless they switch roles. To get fat, Ren is fed glasses of milkshakes, but it's the fat from Stimpy's body. Ren is later horrified to find that his fat body looks groggy, while Stimpy's thin body is smooth and silky. In reality, Nickelodeon cancelled Ren and Stimpy due to a budget freeze at Viacom. As Stimpy tries to act like Ren, he has a brain short and turns grumpy like Ren. Meanwhile, Ren doesn't find any love by being fat and cuddly. Ren assaults the producer and Stimpy in front of a live audience and finally wins the appreciation he desired. Schoolmates and dinner party. In the first segment, Ren and Stimpy are cross-dressers, but when Ren's old fraternity brother Chuck calls to visit, Ren hides Stimpy and all the feminine stuff. When Chuck arrives, Stimpy shares a bro moment, but Chuck gets disappointed to see a cat and tries to kill Stimpy. Ren explains he is a friend, but Chuck dresses Stimpy as a cat, and both chase him. Chuck and Ren then leave to wreak havoc and disrupt the lives of people in the city. They return home with dog babes in tow. Chuck then shows Stimpy and the girls that Ren was a nerd in school and dresses him up as a cat to chase him. The next day, Ren goes to work and returns to find that Stimpy and Chuck have become quick friends. They leave to have fun and shenanigans, but when they return, Chuck calls Ren a bum. Ren starts feeling like a loser and sulks, to which Stimpy helps him realize that Chuck's opinion doesn't matter. Stimpy still dresses as a cat to cheer him up. Next, Ren and Stimpy hold a dinner party at a mansion, while Ren teaches the etiquette of dining. Stimpy is tasked with sending the invites, and obviously, he messes up. The elite members of the society are Mr. Horse, Muddy, and the Baboon. Stimpy then returns to prepare dinner and spits in it. When the guests arrive, Stimpy ushers them inside, parks, or rather destroys Haggis's helicopter and hangs their skins. The other attendees are Sammy Mantis, Ambassador Salesman, General Lummox, Sir Duke of Chicken and Muddy's new wife, Gorgo the Gorilla. This episode is produced after the last one to air, as Sammy appears before he is introduced, while many other characters appear for the last time. The dinner party begins with Stimpy spraying soup on the guests, and then serving main courses such as honey-glazed sheep liver. Powdered Toast Man refuses to burp, causing his head to fall, which is eaten by the baboon. Stimpy then cleans the dishes by hosing down the guests. Later, the men smoke and explode while the ladies get their shoes and legs polished by Stimpy. However, everyone is forced out when the mansion's real owners, the Pipes, return. However, Ren pays them later, as it's revealed that they were in cahoots. Pen pals and big flakes. In the first part, Ren learns about a newly opened luxurious prison and feels envious of it. Ren and Stimpy live in Ren's mother's house, but it gets towed away when Ren receives an insane number of tickets. Ren decides to do something that will help them get a place in the prison. Ren and Stimpy rob a bank with a missile, but they are caught and fired at by the tanks. Ren and Stimpy survive and decide to break into the prison instead. At first, they try to sneak into the prison with a grappling hook, but when it destroys the statue of the warden's favourite stuffed dog, Rascal, it drives him mad. Ren and Stimpy try to enter the prison through the toilet seat. When they cosplay as feces, inmate Kowalski flushes them out. For the third plan, Ren and Stimpy wage war against the prison. They catapult a flaming projectile, enabling Kowalski to escape, followed by 1,000 more fugitives. Eventually, Ren and Stimpy are caught and put in prison for 13 years, but to their horror, a Lummox inmate is placed with them, ending their moment of luxury. In the second part, Ren and Stimpy arrive at Ren's parents' log cabin. Both stories have uniquely highlighted the fact that Ren's parents are rich. The duo enjoys the amenities in the cabin, but at night, Stimpy's long and loud prayer causes a snow structure to fall on the cabin and cover it. The next day, Stimpy gets excited to play in the snow, but it overflows inside and they cannot get out. The duo realizes they are stuck in the cabin for months until summer comes and melts all the snow. The duo spends time playing charades while their supplies slowly get depleted. After 10 months, Ren and Stimpy are surviving on calendar pages and shaving cream, while Ren grows a beard. Ren becomes claustrophobic and suffers hallucinations. On the other hand, Ren torments Stimpy with long words. They are interrupted by a pizza delivery boy who arrives with a lot of pizzas, but Stimpy says they didn't order them. The boy returns the pizza to the original music band group. As more time passes, Stimpy and Ren hallucinate that part of the cabin is food and consume it. The snow never melts, but it's summer outside.
We don't have to fear death because death is life's great reward.
Terminal Stimpy and Reverend Jack Cheese. Stimpy complains to Ren about feeling that he has been hit by a bus. Ren informs that's what has actually happened, but a cat has 9 lives. Stimpy remembers all the time he died but got resurrected, and Ren counts that he has only 2 lives left. Stimpy is still chilled out and goes in the basement to turn off the furnace for Ren's bath. As he hammers the pipe, a gas leak occurs while Stimpy remains oblivious. He still gets crushed by blue ice falling from a plane above, revealing it's probably the effects of Mr. Horse. With only 1 life left, Stimpy finally gets scared and becomes conscious of every object and step. He gets angry at Ren for eating stale stuff. Stimpy then goes through the 5 stages of acceptance, which start with anger, followed by denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. During bargaining, Ren and Stimpy get into an argument about who should possess what furniture, while in a depressive state, Stimpy goes to the milk bar. As for acceptance, Stimpy helps muddy the mud skipper by promising to keep his small favours. However, when Ren and Stimpy eventually celebrate acceptance, they try to light a candle. Their barrel house goes up in flames, while Stimpy and Ren arrive in heaven. However, the announcer salesman demands luxury furniture to let them enter. The second segment begins with Ren and Stimpy working as meat truck drivers for Reverend Jack Cheese, who teaches the gospel of meat through puppets. Although the children don't like the show, they love the meat treats. At night, Reverend Jack holds a ceremony paying homage to meat, but he has a dream where Jack's father asks him to learn to drive. Jack rides right past the children and doesn't stop. Months pass as Ren and Stimpy are still driving the battered truck. However, there are no shows and no sales. Interestingly, this segment highlights the circumstances that led to the firing of John Crisfalusi. Stimpy finds Jack in a trance at the back of the truck. Jack insists on hearing the radio, while Stimpy requests that he restart the show. Jack yells at Stimpy, commenting that it's about the meat and not the children. Simultaneously, Ren finds a police car and stops them to look into the matter, but the police find Jack insane and acting crazy. As the police demand his confectioner's license, Jack escapes on a headless beef carcass. He returns 4 years later as a critic, pelting Ren and Stimpy's puppet show.
For your crimes against humanity, your sentence is infinity in prison.
A scooter for Yaksman. Stimpy works at a fudge popstick manufacturing factory, where he earns 1.5 popstick on Yaksmas Eve. For Yaksmas, Stimpy wants a scooter, and as he waits outside a shop, he glares at it. At home, Stimpy uses every corner and opportunity to hint to Ren that he wants a scooter. Also in preparation, Stimp dresses Ren as a rabbit, but Ren disapproves of the celebration as childish. At night, a shaved yak drives a sleigh and drops sausages, while Stinkly Whizzleteats almost dozes off on the carriage. They appear in the home through the sewers and deliver sausages and pre-chewed gum. They leave for West Pole, and the next morning, Ren's anger dissipates when he realizes Stinky visited their home. Although Stimpy gifts Ren the golden statue of the Queen of England, as demanded, Ren gifts Stimpy with a popsicle stick. Stimpy breaks down and returns to the shop, where he accidentally breaks the window and obtains the scooter. An elderly woman reports the crime, and the police chase the suspect. This episode was initially set to be the series finale, but became the unofficial finale instead. Stimpy makes a long journey, and when he sleeps outside, he has a nightmare of living in prison. Meanwhile, Stimpy's disappearance worries Muddy. Stimpy uses a disguise and arrives at a gas station, where he befriends a man, until he betrays Stimpy when he sees the police ad. At last, Stimpy arrives at the West Pole, but his scooter has suffered immense damage. He goes inside the West Pole Motel and finds the yak and Stinky passed out. Stimpy also finds his real scooter packed and waiting to be delivered. Stimpy leaves the damaged scooter and leaves with the new one, while the police arrive and assume Stinky is the culprit. The episode ends with Stimpy and Ren riding off on their scooter, accompanied by the golden statue.
Stimpy, what are you doing? Ow! Okay.
Sammy and Me and the Last Temptation. Stimpy hides in the mailbox to be the first one to get a package that's just been delivered. He takes it to his treehouse, and it's a Sammy Mantis kit. Sammy Mantis is a caricature of Sammy Davis Jr. Stimpy cosplays as Sammy and tries to make Ren guess who he is. Ren is disinterested, but joins in when Stimpy sings, and only recognizes Sammy when Stimpy almost threatens him. At night, Stimpy makes a deal with Ren so that he reads out a story about Sammy, but Ren barely reads it before burning the book. Stimpy goes to meet Sammy at a signing, but as Sammy gets mobbed, he leaves. Stimpy sneaks into Sammy's abode and stalks him. Sammy is throwing a party, and several celebrity insects are attending it. These insects are all caricatures of Liberace, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis. Liberace and Sammy perform to a song, and Stimpy faints with excitement. Fanboy Liberace asks Sammy to bite his head off, and Sammy agrees. Stimpy feels jealous, but he is found out by Sammy, who recognizes him from the signing. Stimpy claims that he has collected all of Sammy's exoskeleton and cries. Sammy offers to bite Stimpy's head off and he agrees. A brain-damaged Stimpy returns home to Ren's glee. While Stimpy watches TV, Ren chokes on an oatmeal lump. In his dying moment, Ren has a flashback of the time he spent with Stimpy, including a time when they were in the same womb. Ren finally dies, and his soul looks at Stimpy with frustration before leaving for purgatory. There, Ren meets the big guy's gardener, Wilbur Cobb, who we know has died in an earlier season. As usual, Cobb delivers a speech encouraging Ren to mend his ways and gives him a second chance to correct them. It appears Mr. Pipe is God, and he regrets hiring Cobb. As Stimpy unconsciously dislodges the lump, the soul returns to Ren's body. Ren becomes a changed, pious man. He even returns the money he had embezzled from Stimpy's account. Stimpy spends the money on buying lavish things, while Ren asks him not to be greedy. When Stimpy chokes on food, Ren has the choice of either saving him or taking Stimpy's material things. Cobb appears and stops Ren from doing the wrong thing. Ren saves Stimpy and gets rewarded to live long with her family, while Cobb seizes everything for himself and leaves. Marvelous verdict. Ren and Stimpy is easily one of those cartoons that takes you back to your childhood. The nonsensical and surrealistic plots of each episode or segment are unique and, as Stimpy would say, bring joy. But that's where it ends, as it is also rather forgettable, and despite having a touch of classics, might be too simple. Overall, we have still enjoyed covering it for y'all, and would like to know which is the wackiest episode of all, and which one topped your grosser meter. Also, if you have liked out content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more.